welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me, it's Andrew Meadows.
I am indeed Andrew Meadows, here to join you in this podcast.
You can exclusively confirm that you are Andrew Meadows and that you're here to talk about maybe a TV show that has been wrapped up for quite some time, but we're finally getting around to talking about it. Is that what you can confirm?
I can confirm that, and I confirm that you did a lot of homework in preparation for this show.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot to tackle on this episode. So we are here.
Whole monologue, yes.
We are here principally to talk about Ahsoka, the latest Star Wars Disney Plus TV show, following up on The Mandalorian, the events of The Mandalorian and stuff, kind of that post-Return of the Jedi time period. But we have a lot of other things on tap as well. So we have a lot of headlines, some pretty big headlines, I'll say. We got some trailers, and really the reason that we have as much to cover as we do is because we haven't recorded a regular episode in quite some time, I think. I mean, even when we talked about The Creator, we were super late for that. I have to take responsibility here. I just finished watching Ahsoka yesterday. I'm sure that I think Andrew probably watched it around the time the finale aired, which compared to when we're recording, it's probably been close to a month, I would
feels
guess.
Like it's been a month or so.
Yeah, so we're playing a little bit of catch up. So that includes the news and stuff as well. Is kind of my bigger point. Is there's a lot to cover here because you've been dadding about, just been busy. We've been doing other stuff. We recorded something else. I'll talk about that momentarily. A big thing that required a lot of viewing and ended up being a little bit longer than our other bonus episodes that we've done. But yeah, we're here now. We're talking about Ahsoka. Better late than never. I'm really excited to get into it. We'll talk a little Star Wars Rebels as well. Andrew put on an eye patch. He's ready to go. You know what I mean?
I'm ready to do it. Yes.
So yeah, I think we settled on Ahsoka because we had a few options. We contemplated doing The Exorcist Believer, trying to time another horror themed episode, and we kind of just ran out of time. And the movie was apparently quite shit. And
it's not motivating when you hear the movie.
Neither of us watched it. Yeah, and I think it did come to streaming, or at least to video on demand at home. But I don't think even that was enough for even you to like, get it going. So that didn't happen. Killers of the Flower Moon's almost like the opposite thing. It's supposed to be very good, but it's fucking almost 4 hours long. And so, for me, like, I could do it. You know what I mean? Like, I could plan a day around, 4-hour movie. It's not the end of the world, but it's like, that's half your day gone. The process of going to the theater, watching the movie, going home, it takes a lot out of you. For me, it's a lot.
For me,
it's nigh impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it guarantees that I get
can't do it after work
at 11 o'clock, 11:30, after,
right.
By the time the movie starts, or I go see it on Sunday.
Right. And there's your day off that's gone.
That's it's just things. My life isn't conducive
you got a baby. You don't have as much free time as you maybe once had. You have to pick and choose your battles of how you want to spend it. And it's not just you're talking about. Obviously, it's your kid, it's your wife. There's a lot that goes into the process of seeing a movie. When it's 2 hours long, it's pretty disposable. It is what it is. When it's as long as Killers of the Flower Moon is, that's an investment.
I'd rather reserve that talk for something like not that Killers of the Flower Moon isn't worthy of all the praise, because I don't know, it looks quite good. But Dune, if Dune is a 4-hour movie, well,
yeah, right. Pick and choose your battles. Like
that's it, exactly. I'm putting it in my pocket. So
I mean, I think hopefully we get a chance to talk about Killers of the Flower Moon. But we may have to wait for it to come to streaming. It's an Apple TV production, so it'll be on Apple TV Plus at some point, maybe the end of the year, maybe early next year. I'm sure before the Oscars roll around, since it's likely to be nominated for this and that. So I think we'll talk about it. If we do an episode on it, great. But it probably just won't be for some time. But Ahsoka was one that obviously for you've been kind of more or less keeping up with it week to week, and so that was kind of in your back pocket. It was on me to kind of like, all right, I finally finished Star Wars Rebels. I have to watch Ahsoka. It's not, there wasn't a gun to my head or anything like that, but I needed to put the time in to actually finish it so that we could come back and record on it. So
a lot of context
here we are.
in this show. Yes, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So yes, lot. There was I did some homework before I jumped in on Ahsoka for sure. Long overdue homework. I got a 0 on it. It was so late. I think. But we'll talk about it. But anyway, we're here to talk about Ahsoka. I'm going to give a fun fact on it in a second, but I do want to give us, I guess in a way, giving ourselves a plug. I want to plug our latest bonus episode that we worked on. We worked hard on it. It's very exciting. We are kind of retooling our quote unquote historical epics series of bonus episodes to just be epics. And the very specific reason we did that is because it allows us to not just stick with historical things and to dive into a fantastical world like Middle Earth, and go hang out with Frodo Baggins, Samwise Gamgee, and the like, and the rest of the Fellowship of the Ring, because we watched The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We talked about it. There is a bonus episode covering it, which has gone up on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat, $2 a month gets you access to that bonus episode, forthcoming bonus episodes, early access to all of our regular episodes, and perhaps it should not be surprising to hear that we will be continuing our Lord of the Rings coverage. That's those are the next set of movies that we're talking about within that series of bonus episodes, but we're doing it the same way that we've done Troy, Gladiator, Lawrence of Arabia. We're doing them one at a time, and it kind of gives us time to watch the movies, the extended editions, which are each of them about 4 hours long, which, to be fair to Killers of the Flower Moon, is a lot easier when you can do it at home, can watch it in chunks, can pause when you need to do it, etc.
That's right.
Much more manageable. Same runtime, obviously, but much more manageable at home. And I think just 3 episodes for 3 fucking huge epic fantasy movies, I think was the way to do it. And so, yeah, check out our coverage of Fellowship of the Ring. I haven't watched Two Towers, or I haven't rewatched it. I've seen it before, but I haven't rewatched it just yet. But I think we'll be firing up the old 4K of that pretty soon. We'll be talking about it probably before long. So that'll be something to look forward to if you want to stay on top of our Lord of the Rings coverage. You just got to go through Patreon. That's going to be the way to do that. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. I'm really looking forward to. I think we had a good conversation about Fellowship. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the Two Towers. I think what we established was that you haven't seen the other two quite as often as
that's right.
Fellowship. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts with the revisit of those films. So anyway, my fun fact, if you're ready for it.
Absolutely. Let's hear the fun fact.
Is small but hopefully mighty. So, you and I are Star Wars fans. We're big Star Wars fans. You'd probably say, right?
Oh, yes.
We probably count Empire Strikes Back as one of our favorite films of all time. We would have talked about that once upon a time. Probably still true, even though we recorded that episode probably however many years ago now. Star Wars is, it's a rich storied franchise. The interesting thing about one of the interesting things about Star Wars, or more than one interesting things about it, is that for a long, long time there was this extended universe of Star Wars books, comics, etc. And once upon a time, there was this trilogy of books written by Timothy Zahn called the Thrawn trilogy. Introducing this character of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was the heir to the Empire, and so
Mithron,
this really cool,
or something like that, right?
Yes. I don't know exactly how you say his proper name. He's Chiss. He's a fucking blue guy with red eyes and shit. And he was a big, enemy for Luke, Han, Leia, everyone, back in the day in the EU within these Thrawn trilogy books, Heir to the Empire, Last Command, and whatever the third one was called. I think I read them all once upon a time. Last Command was the last one. Dark Force Rising was the middle one. I skipped it. That's what happened. Big cool character. He's master strategist, a really fucking interesting, cool character. Then Disney bought Lucasfilm. They acquired the Star Wars license, and Disney made this executive decision. EU going in the bin. We're done with that.
Big blow.
None of that is canon anymore. Thrawn is no longer, all of those stories about, your Lukes and your Leias and, all the kids that Luke is having with Mara Jade and Han and Leia are having. Nope, they don't exist anymore. They're all gone. And, we get the sequel trilogy, we get The Mandalorian, etc. And that was kind of that. But in comes Dave Filoni, who is the guy at Star Wars. He's the new George Lucas, effectively. And he made the decision to reintroduce Grand Admiral Thrawn in a series called Star Wars Rebels, to reintroduce Thrawn into the canon. We've talked about it a little bit here and there in catching up sections as I've been going through Star Wars Rebels. But it was a big deal, bringing in this beloved EU character.
I think he's one of the most celebrated things of the EU, right?
Absolutely. People were like, I think even as to when Disney was, starting with this new canon, starting to make the sequel movies, it was always kind of like, well, just adapt the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy, and you're good. And I don't necessarily agree with that. There's some real dumb shit in those books, I think, but Thrawn is not one of those. Thrawn is definitely a character that stands out from those books. That was always really, really interesting and a very effective villain. So it was a very smart decision, I think, to bring him back. All that to say, which this is leading it's all the backdrop to my fun fact. This is the live action introduction of one Grand Admiral Thrawn. We get that in Ahsoka. I'm not going to tell you the context for how it happens, where it happens, all that good stuff. But I think it was announced at Star Wars Celebration a little while back that that Lars Mikkelsen, who voiced the character in Star Wars Rebels, would be reprising the role in live action. And so my fun fact is, this is it. This is the long-awaited debut for those fans of Star Wars going back decades to the Thrawn trilogy. This is the live-action debut of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And, we'll talk about it, obviously. We'll talk about it. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, Mr. Johnny V, who are some of the creatives involved on Ahsoka, said that they actually spoke with Timothy Zahn about how they would, intend to adapt Thrawn, because, as they said, Thrawn is his thing, and they wanted to make sure that they got it right. Timothy Zahn is like the Thrawn expert. He's written new canon books, too. I think there's a whole new trilogy of Thrawn books, and then there's another trilogy, I think, of Thrawn books, all written by Timothy Zahn,
right?
Which I think take place closer to Rebels era, like pre-Rebels or roughly.
One's
right?
pre-Rebels, and then the other one is like a prequel to that trilogy. So it's like two trilogies. Right. One's a prequel, or one's a prequel to Rebels, and one's a prequel in and of itself.
Yeah, I think you've read at least some, if not most or all of them.
I read the first trilogy.
I've read zero.
I know I listened to the first trilogy, which is a very good audiobook. Right. I don't think that I've listened to the sequel trilogy, though.
No, you can put it on the list.
I'll put it on the list.
Anyway, that's my fun fact. Is fucking Thrawn, man. We're going to talk about
dude. Thrawn. We're going to talk about
Ahsoka. We're going to talk about all the others in Ahsoka, but just a tease of things to come there. So, with that, I think we can move on to hopefully the lowest point of the show, the in memoriam section. Really, really sad thing happened. The world has lost a friend, and I don't mean that in a joking way. Unfortunately, Matthew Perry died at age 54. I think this it's about a couple weeks ago from when we're recording, so this is not hot off the presses or anything like that, but it's still a very, very sad story nonetheless. Matthew Perry, of course, I think known to most for playing the character of Chandler Bing on the sitcom Friends. Obviously also done other things beyond that, but Friends is an ubiquitous show that even if you haven't seen all of it, you've seen episodes on it. It's on TV, I think, literally every hour of every day on some channel. It's just one of those shows that it's just so dominant and in pop culture. And he was a big part of it. He was one of the friends. He was one of the friends. But he was 54. He was found dead in his hot tub at his home, which was just a really awful scenario. So it's a really, really sad loss. I think it's kind of known. He put out a memoir, I believe, last year, in which he was very open about his substance abuse struggles. So it's kind of, his is a sad story, I think, overall. I think a good actor who had obviously a very memorable turn in Friends and done other things. He played a fun kind of guest role, recurring role in The West Wing. And was in movies and stuff here and there. I think you could probably pick out anything from his filmography and be like, yes, I've seen him in that and he was good in that. But yeah, just a really sad story overall. Obviously,
hot tubs are fucking dangerous, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have
toxicology and stuff.
More details.
I don't think,
yeah,
but...
like right. I have to wonder, obviously, given his history, if there's something that made a potentially dangerous scenario, a situation even more dangerous. But obviously, I don't want to speculate too much. It's obvious. It's an odd circumstance, nonetheless. But shit can happen, I guess.
Yeah, I've been in a hot tub a couple of times. I don't go in hot tubs much anymore. But the times that I've been in hot tubs for any sort of length of time, especially if there was any booze involved or anything else,
right?
Anything that kind of like, I don't know, increases your heart rate or whatever. I don't feel well when I get out of the hot tub, so I just don't. I usually don't go in the hot tub anymore. I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. Yeah. So.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, bad deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're a big Friends person or anything.
Definitely
like that.
not.
I myself have seen episodes here and there. I can't say that I'm a devout fan or anything like that, but I certainly understand the appeal, and 54 is just far too young, obviously. So
yeah, bad deal.
Yeah, tributes obviously from his Friends co-stars have been out there. A lot of people have offered tributes talking about their friendship and time that they were able to spend with Matthew Perry. So yeah,
I saw a picture online and it was the Friends cast, like they're all over the chair or whatever. I can't remember exactly what the setting was, but all of them were there, and they were all in color. And then Matthew Perry was in black and white, and it was just kind of like speaks to your own mortality. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Time's ticking. Yeah, really kind of puts it in perspective when it's somebody like that and it's so young. I don't know. It's crazy. Sucks.
Yeah.
Rest in
peace.
It
does suck. Yeah. It's yep. Not much else to be said besides that. Rest in peace to Matthew Perry. But we will leave that behind and move on and talk about other things. We'll get into some headlines, and I think this is hot off the presses as of, let's see, yesterday from when we're recording.
Okay.
The SAG-AFTRA strike has concluded.
I didn't even know that.
It is over. 118 days have come and gone since the strike began, and it has now finished. SAG-AFTRA and the Hollywood studios, have reached a tentative deal on a new contract that will last for 3 years.
Oh shit!
Which will which I think actually, as a recording, has now put an end to the strike, which means that both strikes have been resolved. The writer's strike obviously ended a little while ago, and now SAG-AFTRA has come to an agreement. So we don't know the terms of the agreement. That hasn't been released to the public yet. Obviously, I'm assuming favorable results. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken the deal. I feel like when you're actors, I feel like you hold a lot of power. especially compared to the writers. Like, obviously the writers were able to resolve theirs effectively through the strike, but I just feel like actors seem to hold a lot of power. So I'd be shocked if it's not a very favorable contract that they were able to reach. And this was after a series of a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of fuck you, you're not doing that. I feel like AI was a huge sticking point, even more so almost maybe than the writers.
Really? You think the actors were more so?
I don't know, but maybe not more so. I think, but different sorts of issues. I think a lot of like actors' likenesses and stuff. I think was a big issue, big sticking point for a while, which I guess sort of
total Black Mirror episode.
Sort of part, yeah, a lot of Black Mirror-y sort of things, like the use of AI, I guess, to replicate voices, to replicate likenesses and stuff like that. I think that was an issue. Certainly, that was a big point of contention. So anyway, all we can say right now is it's over. Things are going to be moving finally. You know what I mean? I think that's really the big thing is, we can talk about the details when we get access to the details, but for now, what it means is things will finally start getting back on track. So we're going to see some repercussions of the strike, lasting as long as it did, and some release date delays and stuff like that momentarily. But yes, that's the news. Is it's over.
I've read this Deadline article. Says overall, the 6 months of Hollywood strikes is estimated to have cost the Southern California economy more than $6.5 billion and 45,000 entertainment industry jobs after production ground to a halt.
That's why they strike, is because you can hit them where it hurts.
Oof.
By not. It's obviously a multi-billion-dollar industry in general, and just
absolutely, it's huge.
When you're not making products, you're just bleeding money. You're just bleeding money all the time. Like, obviously you have projects that aren't successful, you're going to lose money on anyway. But you usually have enough that, at the end of the day, for the most part, you come out ahead. And so, yeah, when you can't even make anything, all you're doing is just sitting on nothing and just losing money. So yeah, both strikes, it seems, were effective tools, negotiating tools to get, as they always are, favorable terms, and that's kind of what it's there for. That's what it's intended to do. It sucks, when you're in the midst of it. Sucks for us, as consumers, because we just wanted to watch Dune. Now that it's resolved, can WB just put it right back where it was? No, probably not. But it is what it is. That's kind of the result. Although I did see Marvel is moving quickly. I think they already booked Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston to be on the Tonight Show, I think, like tomorrow.
Get your asses to work.
So yeah, pretty much. It's like we gotta fucking. The Marvels particularly, I think, definitely needs a last minute marketing push to get it some eyes on it. But yeah, so what this means is movies that were kind of, knee deep in production when the strikes happened are now going to restart production basically ASAP. And films that will be in that bunch that are like let's get this going include Deadpool 3, Gladiator 2, Beetlejuice 2, Venom 3, and I'm sure others, but those are the ones that I think were mid filming and kind of have been ready to go. I know some of them, I think like Sean Levy, who's directing Deadpool 3, has talked about, like, they've had a chance to edit a lot. Ridley Scott has said the same thing. Like, they've edited a shit ton in this time because the directors have been allowed to work and whatnot. But still, I think obviously having a unplanned 6-month gap in your filming is certainly not ideal. And so it has repercussions, but things will get back on track. There might be a lull, in the early parts of next year. We'll get a Dune, but maybe not a ton, depending on how certain projects are, and their time frame for the productions. But yeah, hey, it's over. All right, for now, and then we'll do the song and dance before long. It's only a 3-year deal. Hopefully, they can renew a deal before, so we're not doing this every few years. The way that the government shuts down every few years is, it's like, well, here's a 1-year deal, here's a 2-year deal. It's like, we fucking agree on something longer than that. But hopefully we don't find ourselves in that scenario. So anyway, Any thoughts on the strike ending? Anything else you want to say on that? You ready to
No,
move on?
I'm glad.
We do have a lot of news and stuff, but
just glad that everybody gets,
yeah, I mean, if they sign the deal, right, it should be good for all parties, or at least good enough for all parties at this point.
Good enough for all parties. That's right. So life is about compromise. Get what you need, compromise where you need to, and let's move on. You know what I mean? Right. I'm very excited about it. So I'm glad that,
yes,
we're
Dune will not be further delayed.
That's right. That's
what's
right.
happening.
So excited.
Yes. However, other things will be delayed. Disney has delayed a few things. I think I mentioned Venom 3. Sony delayed it, I think, to the end of next year. But
okay.
But in terms of Disney stuff, Deadpool 3 is originally set for May 3rd. It sounds like that's not going to be happening. Ryan Reynolds has already kind of talked about it on Twitter that it's going to come out summer 2024, but I don't think they've committed to a firm date. So it's possible that it shifts to June, July, something like that. Which right now Captain America 4 has the July slot, so who knows exactly how that works, but it sounds like May is unlikely because they still have a bit to shoot and obviously to edit, visual effects, etc. Beyond Deadpool 3, the live-action adaptation of Snow White has been bumped by a year. This is starring Rachel Zegler. They put out a first look at it. This is like a news within a news. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
I'd encourage you to click on the link if you haven't, because it's, I'm not going to say anything. I just want to hear your take when you get a chance to look at this image.
Oof.
And that's about what I expected.
Come on, man.
It's real bad. So here's the thing with the Snow White. Originally, I think it was announced that, we're not doing dwarves because that's offensive or whatever.
Whatever.
So we're going to do magical creatures. And so it was like, like a bunch of like fucking just, normal ass people, like diverse, there's a black magical creature. There's a white magical, okay, but then I don't know if it was stand-ins on set, if they changed, course mid-production of people being like,
this is Pinocchio-esque
dwarves
shit.
Anymore.
That's
Fuck
what
off.
this looks like.
So anyway, whatever the case may be, they are indeed dwarves now, but they're horrible CG monstrosity dwarves. Okay, so this movie's been delayed a year, so it's not coming out until March 21st of 2025. That's its new date. It's a year delay. They better spend some time figuring out what the fuck's going on there. I'm not going to say that this is going to be good anyway. Like the other Disney live-action adaptations. Okay, whatever. It could be good. If it's a good story in the animated form, there's no reason a live-action form can't work.
Why can't you give it the Hobbit situation with your dwarf people? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, like prosthetics.
Whatever, whatever you got to do. This looks
whatever the solution is, it is not this.
It's not
we can definitively say that.
Exactly.
This is maybe the worst possible version that you could conjure.
Especially
they just look fucked.
Look at the little red one here.
They don't look like real anything. They all look, yeah. The proportions are all like
that red one's his head is like, man, dude, you'd be tipping over. Your fucking head's too heavy. No way.
Yeah, where's the center of gravity?
Right, exactly.
I mean, the other guy, the guy on the right, he's got a big tummy, so it's probably a good center of gravity
offset,
there. He's probably
right.
fine.
But that guy,
but this red guy ain't. It ain't working.
His head's as big as Snow White's fucking entire torso.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, fucking horrendous shit right there. So we're looking forward to a trailer. We'll definitely talk about that whenever one comes along. But I wanted to mention it mostly in the context of its delay, and also who thought this was a good idea in terms of just this visual depiction.
That's the first thing you want everybody to see is this.
Yeah, this is your first impression after the set photos came out of the magical creature people running around. Maybe we'll cover it and we'll do a deep dive on what the shit happened here. But
call, watch, review, and repeat. And we'll just send us a paycheck. We'll pick the best picture. That's not the best picture for your Snow White.
Yeah. It is not. So let's see what else. Elio, which is the next Pixar movie, has been moved from March 2024 all the way to June of 2025. Big delay there. And some of this feels like, I guess, probably definitely strike-induced, but sort of overcorrecting in a way, maybe just reshuffling things around to kind of have things spread out throughout the schedule or something like that. And then last but not least, or maybe least, I don't know, you do you. Magazine Dreams is a movie that is headlined by Jonathan Majors, has been completely pulled off the schedule with no release date right now.
What's it called?
He's Magazine Dreams. I think they put it out at Sundance, got good reviews. And in his performance particularly, I mean, for whatever else you want to say about Jonathan Majors, he's definitely a good actor. But he's currently still awaiting his criminal trial for assault harassment from his domestic dispute. So that I think is supposed to now happen at the end of November. So that will probably inform how Disney handles. I mean, it's one thing like if this, you've already made the movie. How do you handle it? It's kind of a weird thing. Do you just WB Ezra Miller it kind of thing? I don't know. We'll see how they handle Kang moving forward, etc. That's a conversation we'll probably have come when we talk about Loki. But yeah. Anyway. Off the schedule for now. Off the schedule. I don't think we've seen a trailer for it either.
No.
Or if we have, we haven't talked about it.
It's an interesting Jonathan Major conversation, though.
Yeah, that's again. We'll place a bookmark there. We'll certainly revisit the conversation when we talk about Loki. I think because that's probably where it's going to be relevant. Now, on Paramount side of things, Mission Impossible 8. Which is theoretically Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, but maybe not. They're thinking about changing the title, which is really fucking stupid because you already called the other one Part 1.
You're already committed.
Yeah.
You've already...
I guess you could retitle that one, but you marketed that the movie. I'm pretty sure it says Part 1 of the movie.
It's a watch review.
It's a weird,
or not a watch review repeat.
Live, die, repeat
totally kind of situation.
Live, die, repeat. Edge of Tomorrow. Well, this one didn't do as well as we wanted, so we're going to change it so people don't think it's Part 2 anymore. It's like, well, you already put Part 1 out. People know it's Part 2. You can call it something else, but it's still Part 2. Anyway, they bumped that a full year. So June of 2024 was its original date. It is now May 23rd of 2025. So, and then the reason for that is because they hadn't finished filming on it. So it has a lot of filming left to do, and they need more time to get it ready, which is fair enough. A Quiet Place Day 1, which is a prequel, a Quiet Place prequel, has been bumped a few months from March of next year to June of next year. So that seems like it's probably far enough along that they might be done filming it, I guess. But those are the two big ones on the Paramount side of things. Mission Impossible, obviously, with a big delay, and I feel like Dead Reckoning Part 1, because of COVID and everything, got fucking delayed a shit ton too. So it's just not been a good go of it for the Mission Impossible franchise. I mean, it was a really cool film, I will say, but yeah, just in terms of getting these fucking movies made and putting them out there has been a struggle for sure for the past few years.
Tom Cruise definitely has
for
some
this
ulcers,
reason or that reason
for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's fucking livid. He's livid about it.
He's popping Tums.
Yeah, he's pissed about the Barbenheimer IMAX situation. Yeah, he's
pissed about people fucking wearing masks on the set. Oh, dude,
or not wearing masks, you might say.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's having a rough go of it a little bit. But anyway, that's what's going on. I think that's it for the release date shenanigans. So yeah. There may be more to come, even though the strikes have been resolved. I think just again because of projects, having been in flux for so long, it's just kind of inevitable. And I think that we'll kind of see a more pronounced effect next year of just kind of dry spells, right? Which is probably fine for us because we've been pretty erratic in terms of covering things on time and whatnot this year. It's your fault. It's because you have a baby. I'm blaming you. No,
it's okay. It's
perfectly justified. But it might work out well for us. Once upon a time we'd be yearning for something new to cover every week. These days you're like, if we can get like 1 or 2 things a month, we're like on track. We're good. Like it's enough. We don't get paid enough for this, which is to say we don't get paid for this at all. In fact, we probably lose money in the scheme of things, but we do it for you.
We do it for the love. That's right.
We do it for the love of the game. That's right. So anyway, moving on. More headlines. Yes, we have more headlines. I promise we'll get through these before long. Disney making fucking moves, man. They bought out Comcast's stake in Hulu, which is to say that Disney, once this deal closes, if it hasn't already, will outright own all of Hulu. So for a time, it was a co-ownership thing. I think maybe Fox had some equity in it, and then they absorbed that when they made the 20th Century deal to acquire 20th Century Fox.
God,
but then Comcast still had a third of the stake in Hulu, but they're selling it. They're selling it for $8.61 billion back over to Disney. So that will give Disney the full control, full ownership over Hulu, and they're moving quickly. Mr. Bob, new Bob, old Bob / new Bob, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, has already said that in December they will be launching a beta test of a single app combining Disney Plus and Hulu, which is not dissimilar to how things are outside of America. Hulu does not exist overseas. There is just Disney Plus, and then there's something within Disney Plus called Star, which is where the adult content goes, like the Hulu stuff, like your Prey, your things that are very obviously not Disney, right? Not your Snow Whites and whatever. Those get relegated to Star, where there's like the parental controls. You can get access to it separately. So I would assume that's kind of what they're leaning towards. Is that's how they'll do it. Is you'll still have kind of a separate wing within the app for all the Hulu stuff for it to still be there. But you have one access point, probably more expensive because you're theoretically getting 2 apps in one. Or maybe they'll paywall, Hulu, where it's just an add-on within the app. It basically functionally the same as it is now, just one app instead of 2. I don't know. We'll see how it kind of comes together, but figure that's worth mentioning because hey, Disney's apparently got $9 billion to just sling around. So there you have it. Any thoughts on that?
I would like. I have Hulu. I can't remember the last time I actually opened it, so I've paid for it for probably all year so far. I haven't.
I think I've always had Hulu with ads, and I fucking hate,
I hate the ads
stuff. So I've never been a fan of Hulu. So
the last thing that we watched in Hulu is going to be Abbott Elementary. I think we watched in Hulu.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And there's a writer's strike and this and that shit going on and everything else. So I haven't booted up Hulu. I've paid for it every month.
Yeah, no new season of Abbott probably until next year.
I would appreciate a consolidation of apps, especially if one parent company owns all the shit. Just put it all under one umbrella.
It makes sense, right? And I think that there's obviously again, maybe it's just as expensive as it is right now to just have them separately or to have the bundle. I think there's like a bundle with ESPN as well.
That's right. Don't use that either.
Like in terms of user friendliness, it feels like having a combined app, hopefully without ads. That seems to be the way to go. Although I'm sure probably be some bullshit of pay more to not have ads. That's
what it'll be. I'll pay $20 or whatever. There's a lot of content there. That's okay.
Yeah. Look, we're talking about a Disney Plus show here. I will continue to have Disney Plus for the foreseeable future.
And you don't want
I get Hulu at a discounted rate with
ads.
It. That sounds good to me. Right. I do not. I will not watch any Star Wars shit with ads. I can promise you that. I can promise you that.
So you do what you have to do.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, again, it sounds like it's not a full rollout next month for everyone. They'll kind of work out the kinks, but I would say sometime next year we'll get that full kind of combined version. Is what it sounds like. So yeah. I mean, hey. It's something worth mentioning anyway. All right, now moving on to other things, which are just like things that are happening, like shows getting announced, projects getting announced, etc., which we haven't really had a lot of because of the strikes. This is hopefully the norm, is just like, hey, they're making things again. Isn't that crazy? Amazon's developing a Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. Exactly. They'll get Trent Reznor and Karen O back to do some sweet music for it, maybe. But yeah, it's I assume going to be an adaptation of the trilogy itself, as far as I'm aware. Although I think because we got the David Fincher one, obviously, with the do with that was an adaptation of the first book. But then they did The Girl Who Kicked the Spider's Nest, which I think was based off of a sequel that was not part of the original trilogy, and it was a different cast than the Fincher one. But my assumption is that this will be an adaptation of the original trilogy, as far as I'm aware, anyway. So it's in development. They have a showrunner for it. Veena Sud is her name. I'm not 100% familiar what she's been up to. Oh, she's worked on the show The Killing,
which had a shit trailer. So probably not going to get a badass trailer here.
Yeah, I can't say I specifically recall a trailer for that. But it was nominated for a Golden Globe and 6 Emmys 12 years ago. So there's that.
Oh, I'm thinking which one? I'm thinking of the David Fincher movie.
Oh, yeah. Is that The Killer? Is that
The Killer? That's probably what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
that's right. Yep. So yeah, there's that, and then I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I know
I think
the books, obviously.
I think the IP is really compelling. I'd enjoy.
Yeah, the source material is there. It seems to be beloved. They made they did a full Swedish trilogy of that original, the books as well. So yeah,
I think I'd appreciate a good version of it. I'd watch it.
It's been long enough. Even since the Claire Foy one, the Spider's Nest one. So yeah, I'd be curious about it.
I think on a side note, I think that if you can make a trailer that stands with someone for, God, it's got to be like a decade. Like I remember the trailer for that. To be frank, I don't remember a whole lot about the IP. I remember the trailer.
Yeah, you remember the trailer more than you remember the movie itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a fucking iconic trailer.
Yeah,
I think the feel bad movie of Christmas or something like that was like, meow, meow, like the text coming. Yeah, that's a chills inducing trailer is what that is. It really is
so good. Yeah, kudos to those guys, whoever made that. I don't know, but anyways,
yeah. I think it can work. We'll see what happens with it. Next one's pretty good. Henry Cavill is set to star in a Highlander reboot from director Chad Stahelski, John Wick filmmaker Chad Stahelski. Directed. I think he's directed all the John Wicks, co-directed the first one, but solely directed the ones since then. It's going to be a big budget action fantasy thing. It's fucking Highlander. There can be only one. They're doing it. They're doing the thing again.
Cloud. He's not a brother-in-law, but he might as well be. Like, they're not married, but
okay.
Ben is a McLeod.
Yes. Oh, right. Okay. Yes, I see. Much like our boy Kevin McLeod over in Comptech.com.
Yes. There can be only one. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not overly familiar with this IP.
Okay. Have you seen the original movie?
No.
At least. Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if it's an epic, but
I know it through pop
probably worth
culture.
Watching sometime.
Like I know the references.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've never seen it, so I don't have any stake in it.
The original Connor McLeod is Christophe Lambert, aka Raiden from the Mortal Kombat movie.
I see that. Yes. Why he's Raiden? I don't quite know why he's Raiden.
You don't know why he's Raiden? Well, I mean, he's a thunder god, man. I don't know what to tell you.
He don't look like a Raiden guy to me. Yeah, not with this fucking big hat, with his hat.
Yeah.
He strikes me more of a McLeod.
I mean, he was Connor McLeod before he was Raiden, so it's true. The original movie I haven't seen in quite some time, but I remember enjoying it. I think it's a neat concept sort of thing. And for this, I mean, Chad Stahelski, great. I think he's attached like a Ghost of Tsushima movie too, and like, you know, it feels like a classic I'm making 7 movies at once sort of thing, so we'll see if anything actually happens. But I hope that this one does, because Henry Cavill, I feel like, is just getting the short end of the stick with a lot of shit. Obviously, The Witcher, Superman, and everything. It just feels like, give this guy something to like chew on. He's so good. He's a big, burly, handsome man. Let him just do fun, action-y sort of thing. We know he's doing his Warhammer.
Handsome man that's interested in like...
He likes this shit. You know, he eats it up. He wants to do this. He actively wants to do this, and there are too many things that, like, there are too many hands in the pot saying, no, you can't do that. No. He's, you know, he's like a little kid. They're like, no, get your hand out of the cookie jar. And it's like, I just wanted to be fucking Superman. I just wanted to be Geralt of Rivia. Why can't I just do the goddamn thing that I'm good at, that I like doing? And it's like, well, because Liam Hemsworth.
You're too burly and handsome.
Because Zack Snyder. And it's like, you know, just...
Hey,
just
we got a rom-com for you. Henry, you want to play in a rom-com? No, I want to play the fucking superhero. I want to play.
No, I want to be Superman. I want to be Witcher. I want to be Mr. Witcher, Mr. Witcher Geralt. I want to be Mr. Warhammer, fucking big armor man. You know, fucking put him in Gears of War too. He's a big burly man. He'll fit right in. He'll be fine. Don't, you know, like. Just let him do things. Give him ridiculous hair. Matthew Vaughn gave him ridiculous hair in Argyle. You know, like, it's good. It's great. We love it.
Paul Phoenix hair.
Paul Phoenix ass hair. It's great. We love it. Let this man cook. All right, that's what I'm saying. So I hope that this goes forward. Highlander reboot with Henry Cavill sounds fucking cool as shit. I am 100% in myself.
Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah. So I anxiously await more news on this front. That's how I feel about that. So anyway, other thoughts on that? You ready to talk about our last headline?
No, 110% in. What do we got?
All right, last headline. Another new project. Apple is making a Peanuts movie with Snoopy and Charlie Brown on an epic adventure through New York City. So it's going to be a new movie. I think an animated, CG animated movie, so 3D animation, with... production set to begin next year. They're going to go on an epic adventure to the big city, learning the true meaning of friendship while meeting some surprising new friends along the way. You know what? I like Peanuts. I like Charlie Brown. I like Snoopy. I'm in on this sort of thing. What about you? Does this do anything for you?
I have no stake in Peanuts.
You're not a Peanuts person. You got to watch a Charlie Brown Christmas this year. That's your mission.
Charlie Brown Christmas. Okay. Noted.
It's a classic.
We will watch Charlie Brown.
It's short
Christmas.
too. It's under an hour. I'm pretty sure. It's pretty short. So it's just like a little TV special. Definitely fun, and a good throwback sort of thing. Like I don't remember when that was made. 60s, 70s maybe. Good stuff.
Peanuts,
Peanuts
pretty old.
They put out. Yeah, he goes back a few years. Obviously back to the I guess the original Charles M. Schultz comic strip, which is where he originated. But yeah, okay. All right, so probably not a whole lot to say here, but that's all right. We've been here long enough. We've talked about a lot of things already. We have more things to talk about, but this sounds interesting to me.
I will say that you recommended Muppets Christmas.
Did you watch that? I'm sure we both talked about it, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was incredible. It was very good. Like, it was charming. You know, it had a different kind of appeal to it.
There's only one more sleep till Christmas.
Yeah. So maybe I'm missing out on this as well.
Tell you what, there's some fucking Muppets in Ahsoka that we're going to talk about. Sizzle.
Ooh.
Some Muppets. Some Muppets that I fucking loved. I love Muppet Christmas Carol. I love the Muppets in Ahsoka too. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Because
we're going to talk about it. That's what we're going to do.
That's what we'll do. That's right. Anna and I have started a tradition, although we didn't follow it last year because we were too broke, of going to New York City for like a day trip around Christmas time. So this just feels like heartwarming to me, of like Charlie Brown. I don't know if this is even going to be set Christmas time either. It doesn't have to be, but just feels kind of, you know,
Christmassy.
Just feels kind of like, all right, Charlie Brown in New York City. That's fun. I like it. I like that. So anyway, that's it on the headlines front. We got trailers. We got a few trailers to talk about. Yeah, bear with us. Saddle up. We have a few trailers to talk about. So first up,
Wish.
An official trailer for Wish. Now, we talked about it, I think, when the teaser came out. It is I think coming out around Thanksgiving. I think that week, so it's quite soon, a couple weeks away. Probably very, very soon when this episode is actually out. But I figured I'd include it here. It's probably our last chance to talk about it in terms of the pre-release stuff. So official trailer for Wish. I'm going to kick it to you. I've been talking way too much for now.
Wish.
What do you think? I think we liked the teaser as far as I can recall. But what about this one? What did this do for you, if anything?
So official trailer for Wish. Couple of things. I would like everybody to release their trailers out in 4K. Why they don't release their trailers in 4K, I don't quite know.
This is in 4K. Oh shit! I didn't even realize that. I watched it on my TV, and like the 1080p YouTube stuff on my TV just looks like dog shit.
So
just the compression is awful.
That actually it presents a good segue to something else real quick. Okay. I started. I went to watch the Taylor Swift Tiny Desk. I'm a big fan of NPR's Tiny Desk.
This is going to be a
concerts.
long transition. Okay.
And anyways, during me watching the Tiny Desk concert on the TV, it's like this looks like shit. It looks real bad. So anyways, the YouTube offered me like a 30-day or 60-day subscription to YouTube Premium with the 1080p like enhanced bitrate shit. I said, okay, well, I'll bite. And it definitely changed it in a big way. It's horseshit. It's like they give you really bad.
They intentionally make their quote unquote 1080p really, for free users just looks
shit.
It looks so bad. I mean, I wouldn't even say it looks like 720p. It's like somewhere between that and 480p. It's bad.
It's real bad.
The clarity is better than your SD, but just artifacts and just everything.
The artifacts are huge. The monitor that I use whenever like my current setup is I have my laptop plugged into a monitor, a 4K monitor, and everything looks very bad on my 4K monitor, which is really disappointing because otherwise I wouldn't I would just bought a shitty monitor. If that's
what do I have this for if everything's going to look like shit?
Exactly. So anyways, I subscribed to the YouTube Premium. I'm watching this trailer for Wish on 4K, and it looks stupendous. It looks
significantly better than it probably did in 1080p.
Exactly.
YouTube bullshit version.
Looks very nice.
Yeah, fair.
But all the trailers thereafter that are 1080p also look like they should. Which is like, I don't say they look very nice. I say they look like they should, right? So YouTube's kind of fucking you. They want you to spend $15 to buy this.
Well, I say they got you, but I guess you're still on the trial.
I'm on the trial. But to be frank, I mean, I watch these trailers over here for this podcast. Occasionally, I'll watch something on the TV. I'll probably end up spending the money to have, I'm part of the problem.
What's another thing to spend money on every month, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's bullshit. But anyway,
so now you can watch this in the way that it is intended to be viewed, which is the most pristine version of it theoretically. What do you think? Official trailer for Wish.
Official trailer. I think this looks great. I'm really excited to watch this movie. I think it looks like it has a lot of heart. The animation looks like somebody spent a lot of time on. A lot of people spent a lot of time on it. It's got like a cell shaded kind of quality.
Yeah, it's like a sort of 2D and 3D blend. Kind of deal.
Yeah. Hand drawn. A lot of it looks hand drawn and stuff, which is pretty cool. The main bad guy seems kind of like a dick, which is pretty interesting.
That's how it goes, right?
That's how it goes. The music sounds really well too. Who's the voice for the main actress?
It's Ariana DeBose, who was in the recent remake of West Side Story. She was actually in Hamilton, but she plays like one of the dancers, I think.
Okay.
And
so she's she's developing her career here, which is pretty cool.
Yes, she's kind of. I think West Side Story was like a big big kind of thing
break.
where she was doing Broadway stuff, and then she won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for that. And I think, it's just kind of opened a lot of doors. She'll also be in Kraven the Hunter, which comes out next year. So look forward to that.
I think that I also like the Mario star. Like, there's a Mario star in here, like doing shit. Like,
it's like Illuma. It's like Luma and sort of thing. Yeah. No, it's good. I like that.
I think it looks like
Disney's animation team does pretty good shit. I mean, to be quite honest, like they I think for the past several years have delivered.
That's right. I think that it looks like it's got a lot of heart, and it looks like it's people spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, and the biggest surprise of them all, Alan Tudyk plays an animal.
No,
he plays the goat.
Is that the voice?
But he's actually talking. He's not just making noises.
His voice went that deep.
He's actually
That's
voicing.
his voice.
That's his voice. I didn't realize it either until I looked it up. But yeah.
What about who's the voice?
Chris Pine is the king, who seems like a big dick. And yeah, I think that those are kind of the three principal, it sounds like, characters: Ariana DeBose, Chris Pine, and Alan Tudyk. So good voice cast. I like the animation style, and it feels like the story is going to be kind of quintessential Disney sort of thing, but not in a bad way, in a way that
right.
will probably be heartwarming. We get a taste of the music here. Obviously, this is a proper Disney movie with some music and songs and stuff throughout. So yeah, it looks good, and it's right around the corner. Coming to theaters this Thanksgiving. It feels just, I feel like Encanto, when that came out, that was like kind of around the same time frame, and it just hit right, and I could see this kind of having this similar sort of impact. Encanto is a high bar. I don't know if it'll quite reach that in terms of just quality and resonance for me, but it looks good. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, sounds like you are too.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Maybe it's a theater visit for us. We'll see. All right. Any other thoughts for you? Ready to move on to the next one?
The Iron Claw.
Well, we're all over the place. This is just jumping all over the place in terms of content, subject matter, etc. The Iron Claw is an A24 film based on a true story.
Of who exactly? Do you know?
Sort of. So it's this family of wrestlers, the Von Erichs, that it's based on.
The
Von Erich family. They are a professional wrestling family. It's. I don't know how exactly to handle this. I know enough about the real life history that I can say that this is a really fucking wild and interesting story. But I also think saying that necessarily makes people look it up, and I wonder if it's better left unsaid, to the point where it's just like, hey, if this is enough for you, you like SAG-AFTRA, you like Jeremy Allen White, etc., like maybe you just go watch this movie and maybe it wallops you with what happens, what the story really is about.
Okay.
But if you feel so inclined, if you want to know the story of it, and to me, almost knowing the story has made me more intrigued. Like, I thought this was a good trailer, well-made trailer. Looks like it's well shot. A24, I have basically the utmost confidence in. But knowing the actual story has me really, really intrigued about how this movie is going to be constructed and whatnot. So, I mean, you don't know much about the Von Erich family. I'm not a wrestling person, obviously. I don't really know anything about the Von Erich family other than what I looked up because of this movie and the trailer coming out. What did you think, just based on the trailer?
I know nothing of the Von Erich family. When I was a little kid, I used to be huge into wrestling.
Yeah, you're a big wrestling stan.
I was a big Show and like Kane and Undertaker and those 90s wrestlers is kind of my thing. But I know
you smelled
some
what
of
The Rock was cooking. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally smelt it. But I knew some of the older ones, like Ric Flair is the Nature Boy. I know some of the older wrestlers. I know a little bit of wrestling, just enough to like catch references. You know what I mean? but I don't know anything about the Von Erichs.
Hulk Hogan. He's a nice guy from what I hear.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Hey, brother.
Yeah.
But my favorite's definitely got to be, oh shit, I can't think of his name now. Rick Savage? Is that his name?
Macho Man Randy?
Macho Man Randy Savage. That's it. Yes.
Oh, no. All right. I got to do the Randy Savage voice. And I'm gonna sound like shit for the rest of the episode. I'm gonna sound like shit for the rest of the episode. Yeah. Macho Man Randy Savage. Can you hear it for the Macho Man?
It's the best. It's the best thing. What a guy, dude.
By the way.
What a fucking guy.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Fucking heart attack.
So I don't know about these Von Erichs. I don't know if they can hold a candle to fucking Macho Man.
Yeah. Have we had a Macho Man biopic? When the fuck are we getting a Macho Man biopic? Maybe it's already happened and I missed it. But fuck, that would be good.
Macho Man Randy Savage, holy shit.
Maybe that's our project. Thor 4 Valhalla. They already made Thor 4. We got to chuck it in the bin. But Macho Man Randy Savage biopic.
You know?
Oh man.
Wrestlers, dude. They're like a unique breed.
I mean, I feel like so you don't even need to get crazy. You could just call it Macho Man. You just call it Macho Man, right? You know?
for the moving him some fucking dirt bike goggles, to like
call it Macho Man. There's a documentary about him. I should watch that. That actually sounds pretty awesome. I might watch that.
There's a documentary?
Maybe I'll watch it. Yeah, it's called Macho Man, the Randy Savage story.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014 documentary. I don't know what it's on, but it looks like it's on Peacock. Maybe I'd watch that. Anyway, we're going far afield, but anyway.
This looks really well made. This movie looks really well made.
It's A24, right?
I don't know what it's. I don't know about the personal story about what. I don't know the real life situation. It sounds interesting though. Three brothers
drama,
raised by
wrestling.
like a high achieving father. Sounds with like not high achieving for like your career or anything else, but high achieving like. Well, I mean, I guess wrestling is your career, but a high achieving wrestling career father sounds interesting. So
yeah, for sure.
We'll see what it's about.
Sounds. I think looks good. This is a Christmas movie, feel good Christmas movie of the year, December 22nd. So yeah, the Iron Claw. I'm looking forward to this. I think it has the potential to be quite good. Okay, we have a few more trailers. Next one really stood out to me. I'm curious to see if you feel the same way. It's a movie called American Fiction, starring Jeffrey Wright as its main character. What did you think about this?
I thought this movie looked totally outrageous and hilarious.
Yes, definitely.
I think this one's going to be this is a good pick for sure.
Yeah, it's a directorial debut for Cord Jefferson, who has written on he wrote on Watchmen, the Watchmen HBO series. I think some other stuff, but like this is like a big like kind of jump up in terms of just like his creative involvement. It seems like, and it looks. I mean, speaking as two white people, obviously, it looks fucking perfect. You know what I mean? It just lampooning the right sorts of things of just like black culture and the way that people latch on to certain things being more interesting and whatnot. And Jeffrey Wright obviously is incredible.
Whoever made the trailer, talking about good trailers. Trailers are
great trailer.
Such an integral part.
There's an art to it, right? There is an art to it.
Right.
And this is artfully crafted, you would say.
Yeah. Awesome trailer. That beginning there was totally ridiculous.
The excerpt from the book.
Yeah. And then it just showing this man who wants to be a successful author. My pathology to my pathology. I lost it. I fucking lost it back here in my room. I'm pretty sure Sarah and her sister were like, "What's going on in there?" Because I thought it was. This looks like a wonderful movie.
It's giving me Sorry to Bother You vibes, and not in the like the outlandishness of like that got really really fucking crazy. Certainly by the end of the movie, this is that sort of kind of like the sharp witty tone, in a different sort of way. Yeah, satirical, and just looks like it.
He goes
to looks like it's just pressing on the right buttons.
He goes to meet whoever that guy is, or he's sitting there at the it's like he's at some restaurant or something, and he's talking to that guy. He's like, "What'd you do time for? Did you put that shit on me?" He's trying to act hard. It's so funny.
I think this is an out of nowhere one for me, where it's just like this has gone from not even slightly on my radar, I have no idea what this is, to I'm going to see this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thank you for calling this a perfect example of what this I got the same vibes.
Yeah, totally. Again, I'm sure it's going to be a very, very completely different movie, but again, just kind of hitting that thing of, that one had the, you have to use your white voice, just kind of the sort of thing of racial relations being handled in a way that's not so stereotypical, but basically, just using the stereotypes, playing on them, and just I don't know. It looks like a brilliant movie, and I certainly hope that the movie itself lives up to this trailer. So this is a December release. I think we probably have an exact date for it at some point, but not a long wait. It's coming out at the end of the year. Just trying to see if we have an actual date for it. 15th of December. So not quite a Christmas movie, but
close.
Limited release, and then it will expand around Christmas. So yeah, that's like I said, from not on the radar to yep, okay, I'm in. So really looking forward to American Fiction. All right, you ready to move on?
Yeah, totally.
To the next one. All right, next one up is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
What a title.
The Planet of the Kingdom of the Apes of the teaser of the trailer. Wait, did I do it wrong? I think I might have fucked up there. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Couldn't it just be Kingdom of the Apes?
Yeah, but there's like a sort of like scheme, of the Planet of the Apes movies just having the fucking
shittiest titles. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
okay.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Conquest for the Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes. It's sort of a thing with them. I think at least those kind of make sense. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes kind of sounds sort of dumb. It's a mouthful and it's silly, but it also, I'm like, does it actually make any sense? I'm not really sure. Kind of just, I don't know. Hey, whatever. But this is a continuation of the Apes, Planet of the Apes trilogy that we got with Andy Serkis's Caesar, which I will say, that's a fucking really good trilogy.
Yeah,
it's a really fucking good trilogy of movies. Ones that we really haven't talked about because I think they would have finished up before we started the podcast. But that's bonus episode territory, is covering those movies sometime down the road. I don't think they're epics or anything.
Were they done? Were they done before?
I think War came out maybe the same year that we started. I'd have to fact check that. It's been a minute since War came out. War for the Planet of the Apes came out 2017. Came out July that year, and we would have started just not too long after that. So it was really like right before we started. I think
interesting.
I think within the first couple episodes, I talked about watching it, but we didn't actually cover it because we did not exist at that. I mean, you and I existed, but this podcast did not exist.
Right.
So yeah, it's continuing it, and it's been, I will say, this comes out I think next year, early next year sometime. It's Memorial Day, so it's May next year. It's been 7 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. I think again, COVID has turned time into a weird black hole, void, vortex sort of thing where I'm like, I don't understand time anymore. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm how old? No, I'm still 23, I think. Pretty sure. I just checked my ID.
You are not 23 years old.
Oh, shit, man. But anyway, I mean, great trilogy, continuation. What do you think? Are you ready for more? Has it been long enough? Does this look good? Where are you at with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I think it would be fun to revisit these movies in a bonus episode. It's actually a good call.
Right, because it's been, I haven't seen any of them by the time I haven't seen any of them in 6 years because I haven't watched any of them since the war came out. Yeah.
They're cool movies.
They are. They're I think kind of underrated, because Planet of the Apes, whatever, you can't really top the Charlton Heston one, you certainly can't top the Marky Mark Tim Burton one. That one's an all-timer.
Was that a Tim Burton movie?
Sure was, yeah.
Was it really? Wow. I had no idea.
We'll just do a full Planet. We'll just do phases of Planet of the Apes.
A fucking full dive.
We'll do the like Marky Mark.
Our Ghibli movies.
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. We did really good on that with our one episode of Studio Ghibli stuff. But this looks. I think this looks good. I mean, as a teaser, there's not a lot to see here. I think visually it looks quite good. The apes, as they did in that trilogy, look quite good. The animation. It's one of the few cases to me where it's like, it's kind of tough because the original Planet of the Apes into the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes were people in ape costumes, right? It's people with
practical
prosthetics on. They're wearing a mask, and it looks good, and they look like people/ape people talking. This, as was true of that trilogy, is you're talking about
mocap.
Mocap. You're talking about, I guess the apes, chimpanzees, whatever. They look like apes. They look like gorillas. They look like orangutans. They look like the animal that they are obviously supposed to be, but then you're animating them with speech, actually talking, and it's like, ooh, is that going to look fucked, right? Of having an animal talk, like the thinking about like the Lion King remake. It's like I don't know that it necessarily looked fucked, but I feel like there was a disconnect of just like this is so lifelike that it doesn't feel like these characters are like there's actually speech coming out of their mouths. Like that doesn't look right, and that. For whatever reason, they don't have that issue. Maybe it's because, we evolved from apes, blah, 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 so we're like distant cousins or whatever. Just, whatever. How come I need a banana or whatever? I don't know. Evolution's a scam or some shit. I don't know. There's some dumb arguments against it. We evolved from a common ancestor. This is the anthropology major taking over. We evolved from a common ancestor. So it makes sense to me that like, hey, there is enough similarities between the species that maybe that's what it is. It's like I can believe an ape talking, whereas a lion talking is a bridge too far sometimes, maybe. But it looks, I think, in terms of just the mocap, the CG, everything, the visual design of this all looks really, really quite good. I think overall. So, and this is further down. There's few humans. The humans in here seem more primal, right? It seems like civilization has completely collapsed by this point. It really is
totally reversed.
We really are the Planet of the Apes, sort of thing. So, looks good. I'm surprised. Color me surprised. Director of this movie is Wes Ball. Put that name in your back pocket because we're going to talk about him on a future episode. We are. That's right. We're going to talk about him with a certain legend of a certain lady character that might be getting a movie sometime. But anyway, that's sizzle for future episodes. Any other thoughts for you on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
No, I think it looks. I am excited to revisit the IP.
Yes, I think this is a good excuse to like next year. We'll
take a slow dive into all the stuff. I don't
know if we need to do literally all of them, but if nothing else, just doing the newer trilogy, I think would be certainly worthwhile. Probably a bit more. What we would have done 5 years ago, would be let's watch 10 Planet of the Apes movies, dude, and then what we would do now because we're responsible adults and whatnot. It's like
I'll just watch it this weekend. We'll talk about it on Tuesday.
Why don't we watch just like 3, over the span of 2 months? That's probably doable, right? Yeah. So anyway, there you have it. Memorial Day of next year, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Sounds like we got a little bit of time. Let's do it.
A little bit of time. A little bit earlier than that, March 1st of next year, the stuntman becomes the hero in The Fall Guy.
Let me tell you about this movie.
The Goose is back. Ryan Gosling. Tell me about it. What do you think?
Ryan Gosling and one special woman by the name of Emily Blunt.
That's right. Yeah. That's her.
I think that this movie looks like a combination of Drive, because there's a lot of cars and stuff.
Okay, sure.
And it's got Ryan Gosling in it. But it also looks like one of my favorite movies. It kind of gives me Tropic Thunder vibes.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Of taking the, behind the camera or in front of the camera type of character and being like, no, you have to go do a real thing now.
Right. And I think this movie, out of this trailer and another trailer that we have coming up,
okay,
and American Fiction, are kind of like, we have 3 super trailers in this episode, and American Fiction, The Fall Guy, and maybe the next one that we talk about are like the 3 tops. I think this movie looks incredible. I am very, very excited about this.
Yeah.
It looks like really, really good humor that is like right up my alley, and I feel like it doesn't come around a whole lot. I don't watch a lot of funny movies, but I'm all about this one. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I feel like it has the right level of zaniness to it. Like, obviously, it's fucking ridiculous, right? By its very nature, but it seems to be leaning into that very much so. I'm here for Ryan Gosling. I'm here for Emily Blunt, obviously. Those 2 in a movie is probably enough to win me over. The director on this, I think, is something that I feel it feels.
What's he from?
Really, all just
Who's
combo.
That guy?
It's David Leitch that's directing this. So he to bring up John Wick again. He co-directed the first John Wick. Since then, he's gone on to direct Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde, which is. Again,
our first episode, yes.
That's right. Well, in part. We also covered another movie on that.
No, we don't talk about the second movie. I chipped my tooth in that movie.
And then other than that, he did Hobbs and Shaw, which we covered, and Bullet Train. Most recently, he did Bullet Train. So, and that's the right kind of tone for this. I guess it makes sense because this has Kraven the Hunter. Aaron Taylor Johnson looks ridiculous, but in a good way in this.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, he's the action star, and he's, fucking ridiculous guy over the top, disappears, and that's kind of what drives this plot. It looks really, really fun. This is the kind of movie that just needs to be 2 hours of just kind of nonstop fun, and that's kind of like what it seems like David Leitch's MO is. Not Atomic Blonde wasn't like a fun movie. It was good, but it wasn't like a fun movie. But Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, Bullet Train, probably the most of any of those, is just like kind of just
self-aware action
sort
movies.
Of fun. Yeah, right. And in a good way, not in expendable sort of way, just in like a modern, like good, snazzy, well shot, well framed, well choreographed sort of action thing with a good cast, with a good charming cast to boot. So yeah, it looks good. I'm looking forward to it. March 1st is when this comes out. Yeah,
very happy about
kind
this
of out of
movie.
Nowhere one, but
excited. Exactly, out of nowhere is a good way to put it.
But that's always a good thing, right? A pleasant surprise, right? Yeah. So
I was hook, line, and sinker when Emily Blunt says I could just slap you. He's like, well, I'm totally okay with that in a controlled environment, maybe like a whatever he says. Like,
right. I didn't understand that though. Can you explain what that means to me? Could you explain that? What he meant by that? Could you explain? I'm 5. I'm 5 years old. Can you explain that to me?
It's a sexual thing.
I don't know what that means. Can you explain that to me?
That's going to be
these are the conversations you're going to be having.
Daddy, why is that funny?
I'm going to say a few years.
Daddy,
you
why
got
is
a few
that
years
funny?
ahead of you, but
Oh God!
I'm just training you. I'm trying to get you ready. You got to be ready for these sorts of things. Don't feel bad if the answer is ask your mother, son.
Put it off on her. Yeah. We can talk about this second trailer. Well, maybe there's 4 good trailers in this episode. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Right. We have 2 left. So the next one, though, it seems like you're definitely pretty hyped on. It's an FX TV show called Shogun. So it's coming next year, February of next year. It's based off of a novel set in Japan in the year 1600. Stars one Hiroyuki Sanada, and
it takes place in 1600.
1600, that's right. Yeah,
they didn't have guns in 1600, did they?
Maybe they had. I don't know. Maybe they had. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know exactly what they had, but they probably had. I feel like muskets and stuff. I feel like they had some sort of version of it.
We got to research this. This seems like not right.
Yeah.
Let me look it up real quick.
All right.
I feel like they didn't have guns until like 1800. First black. Japan's probably maybe a little bit different, right?
First gun ever made. First ever was a fire lance, 10th to 12th century. So you're talking 900 to 1,000. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think 1600. You've got guns being around. Again, I don't know how effective they are. Probably inaccurate as shit or whatever. But yeah, there's some guns, I guess, theoretically around that time. Anyway, you like this trailer, I gather, based on your previous comments.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
I think this looked like a very well shot show, coming from FX, which I think, in my opinion, when FX hits, they hit good. They hit real hard.
Sure. Yeah. No.
You have devs. You have
Justified.
Oh, Justified. I haven't seen Justified, but there was one with it wasn't devs. It was the fucking mutant one with Aubrey Plaza.
Legion. Yeah.
Legion was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
When they hit hard. I think they produce good shows.
Definitely. Yes.
This looks well shot. It looks intimate. It looks heartfelt. And I don't know. I'm really excited about this. I got like Last Samurai, I think it was called, with Tom Cruise. The Last Samurai vibes.
Definitely getting some of those vibes for sure. The
You know,
inclusion of white people is certainly a thing that steers it, I think, in that direction to some extent. Although I didn't see anyone putting on some samurai armor, so we might be good there.
Yeah, it's just like yeah, I don't know. The time when you told me it was like in the 1600s, it doesn't seem. It seems too old to be that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see where the story goes because it looks really compelling. Very excited about this movie or this show. Yeah,
it does look like it has movie production values, though.
It does.
Yes. And I think it's a miniseries. I don't know if it's how long or short it is. Probably no more than 8, I would guess. Maybe even shorter than that. Yeah, but it just looks. I mean, I guess it kind of looks epic, right? I mean,
it does look epic.
It looks pretty epic to me in terms of just the feel, the tone, the scale of it. Is very impressive for a TV show. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it looks really fucking interesting. It looks good. The cinematography that we get from this looks really impressive to me. Yeah, I'm in on this, I think.
Definitely.
Especially if it is kind of a more or less self-contained sort of story, that almost makes it more appealing, right? It's just, a kind of long-form storytelling thing you get, 4, 6, 8 episodes, again, whatever it ends up being. That about it almost appeals to me more than a 5-year investment of time, So, and I think the advantage of something like that is you can maybe get someone like a Hiroyuki Sanada in there, who, by the way, is fucking awesome, and I feel like has too small of a role in anything, and it feels like he's kind of a lead role in this, which is awesome. So, and I guess he was in The Last Samurai, I guess, to make that comparison too. But he was also Scorpion. Get over here. So anyway, yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I think it looks really, really fantastic. So, it's certainly on the radar. And it looks like 10 episodes. Oh shit, 10 episodes. So 10 episode miniseries. So there's more here than I think I thought, but again, 10 episodes, a complete package, more or less. Sounds pretty fucking neat. So I'm looking forward to that. February of 2024, we'll be getting that on FX, which means that it'll also be on Hulu, which means that maybe it'll also be on Disney Plus. Kind of weird, but you should have access to it in some capacity. So that brings us to our last trailer, Ghostbusters. They're back. They're busting the ghosts yet again. In Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Got a teaser trailer for this. It's a follow-up from Ghostbusters Afterlife, bringing back the cast of Afterlife, right? You know, Stranger Things and his mom and his sister. But also, it seems like more so than Afterlife did, bringing back the surviving Ghostbusters, including Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, and so yeah, it's kind of the merging of the two sort of cast, the Afterlife cast, Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, to actually say their names this time, and then the old and new, and there's some shenanigans going on in New York City. It's frozen over in July, and that's abnormal, one might say. So, what do you have to say about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Was this maybe the fourth trailer that you liked, or is that in reference to something else?
This is the fourth one. I saw that we were talking about it, and I was like, there was a little groan. But then,
yeah, I don't disagree with you of just being like, do we need another one? I mean, like the last one was fine; it was good enough. It was perfectly pleasant and not bad, but it was like, all right. I mean, what else is there to be mined from this franchise at this point?
Right. And you know, it really didn't look that bad. Looked like it might
looks
be
different.
Okay.
I think that's the thing that stood out to me is it doesn't just feel like a pastiche of other Ghostbusters movies and whatnot. It does feel kind of unique. The setting, the setting is back in New York, which I guess is different from Afterlife, closer to the old movies. But just this the actual story itself of New York being frozen over. There's weird fucking ancient evil frozen ghost thing. I don't know. Like that feels like different. It feels kind of fresh for Ghostbusters a little bit. And I think that again, bringing back, uniting the kind of separate casts in a more direct way. Whereas Afterlife was like, Dan Aykroyd shows up and Bill Murray. I can't even remember if he was in it. Ernie Hudson, I feel like was basically at the end. Having everyone kind of come together in this sort of way makes it just feel more meaningful, I guess, almost. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the moment that sold it for me, though, was just Paul Rudd at the end. Suited up. Paul Rudd suited up in a Ghostbusters, although it's like a red kind of sort of thing. It's a little different than the traditional Ghostbusters uniform, but him just like reacting to something in the trailer. It's edited to make it think that it's this entity sort of thing, but it got me. This trailer did get me. I kind of feel the exact same way. It's just like, fuck it, yeah, okay, this, yeah. It surprisingly feels like, you know what? Maybe this has justified its own existence in a way that we did not anticipate that it would.
I really like Paul Rudd's.
Yes, that's what it was. I couldn't remember the exact noise he was. I was like, I don't want to make it up and just get it completely wrong.
It was like a ho ho ho, but it was just like a deep, like Tim the Toolman Taylor laugh. You know, it was good.
Yeah. Look, I mean, everyone knows my Paul Rudd policy at this point. That alone might be enough to get me in the door. But I am pleasant. You know, I think we're probably both pleased to report, hey, maybe this movie will offer more than just Paul Rudd being his charming self, right?
Although I could appreciate an R rating, especially when all those ice spikes are coming out of the ground.
Yeah, there's a violent version of this movie to be made.
Yeah, people are getting impaled by the
maybe
ice.
On the Blu-ray.
That's not going to happen. But
that's probably not going to happen in the final product. But that's all right. And this movie, to round it out, is coming out soon. Exclusively in theaters, coming soon. The trailer exclusively confirms that, which is really, really, really cool. But it said this spring, or next spring, rather. So March 29th is when we're getting this. So yeah, there you have it. March 29th, we'll be getting some more Ghostbusters action. That's right. Oh, my goodness. We made it. We made it through all the headlines, all the news. Ooh. We've been here a while, and we have a lot to cover. And I'm going to plug it, theoretically, roughly halfway through this episode or whatever. Hey, timestamps are there if you need to skip around. Not just on this episode, on any future episode, too. You want to listen to us talking about things. It was good. We covered a lot of territory. We did a lot of catch-up there. I feel good about it. I think we had some good conversations. We talked about some good trailers, some good movies coming out in the near future and in early next year. I feel good about it all. But I'm going to feel even better when we get a chance to talk about some fucking Star Wars, because you and I, we like ourselves some Star Wars. So what do you say to having a little conversation on Star Wars Rebels before we really dive in on Ahsoka? I feel like that's we kind of held back conversations. And I'm going to kick it to you at this point, because backstory here, which is something I'm sure that I've said or you've said or we've said many times and time again. Once upon a time, Andrew and I went to Star Wars Celebration, the big old comic book convention. It's not really a comic book convention, but it's a big convention. It's a Star Wars convention. We went, I think, 2018, if I want to say. If I get that right. When they held it in Orlando, so it was convenient for the both of us. We both lived in Florida at the time. You still do. I do not. But at the time, I believe the final season of Star Wars Rebels was coming out. And so, I think I promised you, I'm going to catch up on Star Wars Rebels in time. That didn't happen.
No.
I think I watched because we went to the Rebels panel. They showed, I believe, the first episode from season 4, maybe even the first, because it's like 2-part. I can't remember if they showed both parts or just the first part.
It's like the death of Mandalore, like the nuking of Mandalore. What episode was that?
I think it was the premiere of season 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, well, I didn't live up to that promise. In fact, I didn't finish Star Wars Rebels until when I talked about it, however long ago this year, a couple months maybe at most. So it took me a long time to catch up on Rebels. I watched it sporadically here and there. I watched it, I watched season 1 a few years ago. I watched season 2 a couple years ago, and then seasons 3 and 4. And then she'd already seen it, so she had passed the test. We spent probably a good chunk of the last year or so watching Rebels. For me, the first time. For her, rewatching. So I finally finished my quest. I completed my homework to pick up that thread. But it was about 5 years overdue from when I said I would have it ready. You, on the other hand, are a big Star Wars Rebels fan. Watched it at the time. Watched it when it came out. So what is it? Yeah, tell the listeners about your Star Wars Rebels fandom experience, etc. Yeah.
So, I haven't seen Star Wars Rebels in quite some time. I finished
like
it.
I said, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been
but what I will say
at this point,
is, there's 2 predominant animated Star Wars things. There's Clone Wars, and then there's Rebels. Right. I guess most recently, there's Clone Wars, there's Rebels, and now there's Bad Batch. Those are kind of like your three big go-tos. Star Wars Clone Wars is definitely the longest running show. In my personal opinion, there's a lot of filler episodes, and they're just as entertaining. They're awesome. But it has
Bombad Jedi, Jar Jar's a Jedi, really good stuff.
Yeah, But I mean, in Star Wars Clone Wars, there's for me there's one big arc that is just it stands above and beyond some of the other stuff. That's the Maul arc. The Maul and Savage Opress and just that whole thing. And that arc is really, really, really cool. You also get it, in Clone Wars, you also get exposed to Ahsoka, right? That's like your first,
right?
That's where she's.
I mean, that's. I was going to make the same point at some point. This episode is Clone Wars is really where Ahsoka, her characterization, that's where we learn
all about
Ahsoka,
her. Right?
And really get to know who she is for sure. Yeah, Clone Wars is really Ahsoka's show.
It's kind of like
some ways.
Yeah, it's your if you're gonna,
it's everyone's show. There's a lot of Jedi that it focuses on. It goes with different arcs for different characters, but Ahsoka is like she's like the big new character that we get.
That's right. So Clone Wars introduces a lot of different things. Rebels, though, Rebels centers around a much tighter group of characters. There's not as, there's filler episodes in it too, but it's.
But at the end of the day, it is all focused on this core group of characters.
That's right, and there's
an episode might be centered on
season.
One versus another, but yeah.
And it's a tighter storytelling experience, and that for me was easier to follow and easier to really sink my teeth into. There's really high experiences in Star Wars Rebels that I think that are not present in Clone Wars. If I had to pick the two, I'd pick Rebels over Clone Wars. Just as far as like one cohesive experience with one set of characters.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But they are different experiences, right? Like they're different shows for different reasons. So it feels kind of unfair to like pit the two against each other because they're different shows. But Rebels for me was, especially with like this, like post Order 66 era kind of like era in Star Wars, like between your episode 3 and your episode 4, it kind of defines what it is to be a Jedi or what it is to, be a rebel. Exactly. It really frames it really well. And there's some very, very high highs within Rebels. Drew me to tears. There's a handful of episodes that I can think of right offhand that, and I haven't seen Rebels in.
All right. Well, should we say, hey, spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, for anyone that happens to care, I think. Yeah. Ahsoka picks up, obviously, with some of these characters that makes sense for them to be involved in the events of Ahsoka and the timeline, etc. But we'll just say spoilers, so you don't have to feel, talk about moments, talk about specifics. Don't feel bad about it at this point.
So, there's you have one character in here that is in Star Wars Ahsoka. Oh shit, I can't think of her name right now. The Mandalorian. She's not a Mandalorian. Sabine Wren. Yeah. Yes. Sabine Wren. There's one arc in Rebels that just really irks my heart and hurt. It's her. It's the Darksaber episode.
Yeah.
Where Kanan teaches her how to wield it and everything else. It just, oh man, I remember how hard that hit me when I watched that in Rebels. But it's more than that though, because you also have the exposure to Thrawn. Thrawn's in Rebels. Thrawn's your first exposure
season 3 and
to
4.
Rebels.
You get full on. Thrawn is really the big bad. I mean, he's got underlings and whatnot, but Thrawn's kind of pulling all the strings. He's the big foe that the Rebels kind of have to deal with.
Yeah, and he's got his own theme. And like musically,
sure does.
He's a bone-chilling character, and he's super compelling too. He's just methodical, and the books really kind of like the books make him almost like a sympathetic character. Like you can stand behind him and they, like he's your point of view character, right? So with him being your
grounds
point
him in a way that the rebels, the rebels are your protagonists, and Thrawn he's the antagonist. You don't want him to win.
That's
he's still
right.
compelling, I think, but
right.
You don't really. You're like, fuck this guy. When you're like, I don't want him to win.
So they kind of play fast and loose, and with what's good and what's bad, and this and that. Between the books and the animated series and Ahsoka, it's I don't know. I think it's really awesome that Disney has, like the classic example is going to be the Emperor Palpatine's classic bad guy, right? Like he's terrible. But now with like the abundance of media with the books, with the animated and with live action stuff, it makes the conversation a lot more nuanced as far as like what the characters are going for and like their angles and who's the bad guy and who's the bad guy. It makes it much more like it's a debatable thing. It makes it a real life conversation about these characters, and it makes them so much more true to life, I think. So anyways, I think Thrawn is one of my favorite characters. I'll throw that out there. I think Thrawn is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters. As far as villains go, I think Thrawn is my favorite villain. And characters, period, I think he's probably one of my favorite. He can get debatable, but Thrawn's up there. As far as Rebels go, I think Rebels is one of the best animated stuff you can get. I think it explores a whole lot into like just Star Wars lore and the Force and just what it means to be a Jedi, what it means to be any other, like the full. I think it really explores the spectrum of the Force and how it's utilized, right? Because you have like benevolent beings like the I was gonna say Bennu, but it's not Bennu. What the fuck is his name?
The Bendu.
The Bendu. Yeah. You got the Bendu, who's just like a benevolent being living on some planet and using the Force, right? It's like a
right.
So it kind of like just exposes you to the Force is a thing and how you choose to interact with it, and it's I don't know, just it makes it more lifelike, the Force. And I don't know. I really enjoyed the angle that they chose to go with Rebels.
Yeah.
Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling.
That's all right.
What do you got?
We love a good ramble. I've talked about it on and off, obviously, as I've been finishing the series in our catching up sections. I wanted to talk about it a little bit here, just to kind of express some overall thoughts, and really what I have to say just echoes what you have to say. And and Clone Wars is a really, really interesting TV show. There's a lot of really, really good stuff packed into the Clone Wars, but it is longer, it is a bit more dense, and there's definitely some clunkers in there, clankers in there as well. The battle droids and whatnot, clankers. But Rebels is this kind of tighter group of characters that we care about, and I think that. I'm not going to say that Rebels is required viewing for Ahsoka or anything like that, but at the end of the day, Ahsoka is kind of a continuation of Rebels in picking up the torch, taking a lot of these characters, bringing them into the live-action forefront. We'll get into that, when we talk about the show itself, but Rebels is kind of where you see these characters, I don't want to say in their prime, but kind of in their prime, when they're peak Rebel, right? This is... the Empire has taken over. This is pre A New Hope. This is when just the seeds of rebellion are being formed. And you just have such a really, really wonderful group of characters. Ezra, who is kind of a gifted youngster who is Force sensitive, who kind of grows throughout the series into a kind of full-on Jedi sort of thing. Hera is Space Mom. She's great. She's an awesome pilot, and just kind of like the tender, caring, matron of the group almost. Kanan is a fucking cool Jedi that survived Order 66.
Who goes blind?
Who goes blind at one point? That's right, and continues to be blind for the rest of the series. And then Sabine is kind of an artistic Mandalorian who is skilled in combat, but she's kind of hot-headed a little bit. Zeb's this alien guy who's a good warrior, and is kind of like the last, or I guess we kind of found out one of the last of his people. And then there's Chopper, the war criminal Chopper, the one and only. But they're just such a lovable group of characters. But I think that you grow, you love these characters as you watch Star Wars Rebels. I think one of the big things is like there's a lot of just good holy shit types of lore moments, and it's jumping ahead somewhat. True of Ahsoka too. Ahsoka kind of has the same sorts of like, fuck, okay, that was cool, sort of moments that Rebels has. Clone Wars has it too, don't get me wrong. But Rebels really, because of the way that they integrated a lot of characters, was really, really cool. So, I mean, I think about like season 2. Season 2 is probably the most like Ahsoka prominent one, where she's fulcrum and she's kind of, with the Rebels, and then you end up with the season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice, and you have this big Ahsoka Darth Vader duel. And it's just the coolest fucking shit. It's just awesome. It's master versus apprentice, and it's just such an awesome moment. But even beyond that, Rebels gives us the Grand Inquisitor. We've seen the Grand Inquisitor in Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, although he kind of looks a bit fucked in that. The other Inquisitors and stuff like that. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff. And then really building into seasons 3 and 4 when you get Thrawn. And Thrawn is just kind of this ultimate foe of the Empire who, the Grand Inquisitor is, I guess not unintelligent. Obviously he's intelligent, but he's kind of just a pawn of the others. And then Darth Vader is fucking Darth Vader. Darth Vader is iconic. We know who Darth Vader is. But then Thrawn is kind of this, we don't know anything about him. He's new. He's a new wrinkle, for the Empire, for all these characters. And for him to be the kind of 2-season long villain is really interesting, because really what happens with Thrawn every time is Thrawn doesn't lose because Thrawn gets outsmarted. Thrawn loses because he has not accounted for some bullshit fucking element. The Bendu. He does not account for the Bendu, because who the fuck would account for the Bendu existing? He doesn't account for the Purgles with their hyperspace bullshit. Like Thrawn is just like, man, I did everything right. I did everything, like the smartest way possible, and I got outsmarted by some fucking horseshit luck, from these ragtag, band of fuckheads.
Bullshit.
And that's the beauty of Star Wars, right? Is Luke Skywalker says, I'm not using my targeting computer. He fucking puts it away. He just says, I'm using the Force to fucking will this goddamn proton torpedo.
Tom Cruise is it. Right.
Yeah, and blow up the fucking Death Star with a 1 in a billion shot. That's Star Wars, it's just putting your faith in just the so implausible, and then, things just kind of work out, right? And I don't know, just something about that is just like Rebels. Just it's pure undistilled Star Wars, and at the end of the day, what it is Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni, he gets it. He's the George disciple. He's someone that just kind of understands what makes Star Wars tick, what makes characters within Star Wars tick, what makes the universe interesting and compelling, and then he still throws in new elements. Thrawn's a new element. You get kind of lore aspects that were set up in Clone Wars, picked up in Rebels, and then we'll see some in Ahsoka. We'll talk about that. Cool stuff that like is a little bit outside of the bounds of what we usually think of within Star Wars, within the original trilogy canon and stuff like that. And Rebels, man, it's a good fucking show. So this is a big spoiler again, just to reiterate. Losing Kanan was brutal, man. I did not see it I mean, I knew it was coming. I think I texted you when it happened. Like, I knew it was coming. I knew that Kanan would not survive Star Wars Rebels. I knew that he would die at some point. I did not expect him to die in the moment that he did, in the way that he did, when he did, in the episode that he did. And for the most part, the series is pretty happy-go-lucky. Even though it's rebellion, there's not a ton of loss, and overall, everyone, they always kind of scrape out of a rough situation, a tough situation. They get out of it, and they learn a lesson or two. But losing Kanan just felt like it was such a gut punch. And everything about this is so interesting, like to see these characters where they are, obviously before you get your big, rebellion heroes and Luke, Han, Leia coming into the fold. Like these are the OGs. The Star Wars Rebels characters are the OGs, the ones that really set the stage for a full-on Rebel alliance to be able to succeed against the Empire. And it's a good show. It's a really good show. 75 episodes. It's animated. It's a kids show, sort of. At the end of the day, it is certainly kid-friendly, although it definitely has moments of darkness and moments where it's like, okay. And then there's like really cool moments. The Kenobi Maul resolution is fucking badass as shit. There's some good stuff, and there's a lot of Mandalorian stuff that ties in. Bo-Katan's in it for a bit. Like a lot of it sort of builds into the greater lore with the Mandalorian specifically in the most recent season that we got. The Darksaber stuff really, really heavily feeds into all that. And it's just, seeing all this, it provides a lot greater context. I'm not going to say that it's essential viewing for an Ahsoka, for the Mandalorian, for like this story that they're crafting.
Certainly
but you
helps,
but you
though.
stand to benefit by watching it. Absolutely. You don't have to watch it. You're not going to be totally lost or anything like that. But you are certainly, if you are a fan of Star Wars, if you can swallow the fact that it's an animated show largely targeted at kids, there's a lot in here. Yeah, there's some moments of silliness, and there's Hondo Ohnaka, who's Hondo, and all that good stuff. But like at the end of the day, it really is a worthwhile show. So anyway, sorry it took me so long. I know I've said that before, and I'm saying it again now. But
you watched it.
That's the point. But I watched that. I finally did the damn thing, and I finally fucking watched Ahsoka as well. So, any other thoughts for you on Rebels? You want to talk about Ahsoka at long last?
No, I think
if you remember it, it's been a while for you, but
I think Rebels is incredible. It's an incredible animated series. I liken it to something like Last Airbender. I think it's.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think it's
fantastic show.
A fantastic show. Exactly.
It's animated. It's geared at kids, but that doesn't make it inherently bad or not worthy of your time.
No, there's a lot of really compelling story arcs in the show. So
definitely.
Should definitely watch it. Ahsoka,
and
here we are.
At the end of the day, really, although there is a lot of shit that pops off in between the events of Star Wars Rebels and Ahsoka really is a Star Wars Rebels continuation in many ways. It's not season 5 necessarily, but it's as close as you're going to get, right? So yes, let's talk about Ahsoka, streaming exclusively on Disney+, written and created by Dave Filoni. Stars Rosario Dawson, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Ray Stevenson, Ivana Sakno, Diana Lee Inosanto, David Tennant, Iman Esfandi, Genevieve O'Reilly, Hayden Christensen, and Lars Mikkelsen. After the fall of the Galactic Empire, former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano investigates an emerging threat to a vulnerable galaxy. Maybe it has something to do with Thrawn. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. We will do, obviously, full spoilers later. We'll stick with non-spoilers. We'll do our usual shtick for Ahsoka particularly. I didn't feel bad about spoiling Rebels because it's 5 years old now by the time it concluded. So if you're behind like I was, that's on you. And that's just how it goes. So Ahsoka, you obviously, again, would have wrapped it up probably about a month or so ago, but hopefully you still have some thoughts. Hopefully you still have some things to say about Ahsoka, things that come to mind. So I'm curious to hear your overall take on Ahsoka and how you felt about it as a series.
All right. So I think that glasses are coming off.
Serious business. Talked about Star Wars Rebels. It's Ahsoka time. Put those fucking glasses down.
So, non-spoiler thoughts. I mean, we can start with. I think we could probably start with the cast. I think that's probably a really good place to start.
All right.
So pretty much everybody's here. Everybody's showing up except Zeb, which I think made it like a cameo appearance. And
yeah, it kind of felt like, I mean, I guess very minor cast spoiler, I guess, obviously. It felt like maybe he would get thrown into the mix because they set him up in The Mandalorian Season 3, but no, all the other rebels are here in some capacity, but, well, sort of. The ones that make sense to be in the show are in this show, I guess, let's put it that way. But no Zeb. No Zeb. Everyone else, though.
So cast of Ahsoka. I'm going to start with I guess we'll start with Hera.
Ahsoka? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we can start with Hera. Start with Hera. I thought she was pretty good.
Are we talking like, you know, who made the leap from animation to live action? Is that kind of
that's kind of the
thinking?
vibe? Yeah.
Okay.
I thought she was pretty good. I thought the actress was outstanding. She's Obi-Wan Kenobi's wife, I think, right?
That's right. Yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Yep.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Sure, that probably didn't hurt. You know, having old Ewan on you know, speed dial with Kathleen Kennedy and everyone else. But hey, you know, she's obviously an established actress in her own right before this too. So she's Ramona Flowers. You know, so.
Yeah, that's right. The Hera bum was present in this. I do recall. Okay. Ever present. But I thought she was pretty good. At first, I thought the design was a little. I think overall, as a whole, the transfer from animation to live action, is I'm just gonna say quirky. Like, I feel like they were just, with the exception of Sabine. I thought Sabine was a fully realized, like, that felt perfect. I thought Sabine was she could not be any more perfect. The casting for, also Ezra. Ezra was, I thought he was outstanding. Hera's design, I thought she was just, I don't know what it was about her either. I'm not quite sure what it was. But the big one,
the eyes really kind of took.
Is that what it was?
Bit.
Was it the eye? It's been a couple weeks since I've seen it.
Right. Yeah, it has been a while.
I can tell you what it is.
Yeah. To me, it's almost like an artificial sense of just being like her eyes are green and Rebels. Yeah, great, but then kind of like trying to adapt that into the live action format doesn't look real, and in the way that everyone else like feels and looks like a real person. Like, obviously it's a lot easier when you're not doing an alien. Like Zeb looked fine in Mandalorian because he was just kind of a CG recreation of his Rebels design. You know, your others that you're talking about. Even I guess Ahsoka's an alien too, but I feel like she still looks better. But even then, they couldn't quite. Even when they first adapted her to the screen in Mandalorian, they had to shorten the length of her Leiku compared to how they were in Rebels, because they couldn't like do it practically and actually have her be able to do action sequences and stuff like that, and they didn't want to have like a CG integrated design. They wanted to do it all practically. So I guess maybe it's just a kind of thing when they're doing this practical form of the aliens that we've seen, and like they look totally fine in animation. Obviously they look how they want them to look, but there's just a disconnect. Like even Cad Bane had like a little bit of a disconnect, like wasn't quite right. Jumping from Clone Wars to Boba Fett, where he appeared. So yeah, I think it's good enough though. I think
it was good enough. By episode
you get used to
3,
it, right?
I'm 100% in, no problem.
It's not an Alita situation exactly, but maybe close enough to that where it's just like, it's not quite right. But then after like 5 minutes, you're like, I don't care anymore.
Exactly. It's not that big of a deal. Like I said, I think Sabine is probably the best pool. Okay. The big one here is, of course, Mithron. What is it? Mithron Narudu?
I still don't know.
Thrawn. Anyways, it's Thrawn. Thrawn here, I think, is the I don't know if it's the coloring. I don't know if it's the eyes. I feel like his eyes are a little bit more vibrant. Like, they just don't feel. I don't know. I don't know what it is about him, but something's off with him too. Like, his skin appears too soft.
I think that's part of the problem. For whatever reason, turning Lars Mikkelsen blue makes him look like Elon Musk, and that's distracting. It's fucking distracting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a sort of almost. The hue? I mean, obviously he looks otherworldly, which I guess is somewhat the intent. But something with the eyes almost has this sort of. Again, it doesn't really have a tangible feel in the same way that even some of the other, like, Harris still feels tangible, but it looks like someone wearing contact lenses. Thrawn doesn't look like someone wearing contact lenses. It just looks like CG eyes over, the way that Deadpool has his white eyes animated, or Spider-Man with the lenses and stuff. So
kind of weird.
It's not quite there. I don't know, but the coloring itself didn't really bother me with his design, but I kind of agree in a general sense that it's not.
His skin looks soft.
Not 100% there. It's not 100% quite there. Like, I think that they did some form of practical makeup work and then layered CG on top of it, and it kind of gives it a sort of, digital glossy sort of look, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. It's a little strange. I got used to him. I didn't think it. Once again, I don't think it was. Well,
he nailed the voice, so
Yeah, definitely nailed the voice.
Helps having practice of 2 seasons of Rebels, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, I couldn't picture anybody better for the role.
I think. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's someone that could have been like a perfect physical match compared to the Rebels version, but also this is an older version of the character who's been through some shit. We'll talk about that in spoilers, obviously, but. I think, and he's fucking tall, is what he is. I think at least that gives him a very imposing presence. Like, he's got like a little bit of a belly, relatable, obviously, but like he physically is kind of still menacing at the same time. And, and the voice kind of, it's softer than you might expect for someone that looks like they're a fucking giant compared to the other people that he's sharing the screen with, at least. But it has the right sort of menace, and obviously it's just that's the established iconic Thrawn voice that terrorized the Rebels for 2 seasons.
Yes,
chilling. Yes, definitely.
And then there's Chopper.
Nailed
it. You see, that's the thing about Chopper. Okay, Chopper's awesome, but there's no other droid that has such like a loose, like, especially if you're talking about like astromechs. His fucking top's always about to pop off, right? Because he's like, and this, he can almost talk. Like, you can almost understand him. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it was that way in Rebels, which, again, it's a cartoon, a kid's thing, so maybe it's you get away with some of the sillier aspects of it. But I think they kind of just basically retained it exactly as it was. I'm pretty sure it's just Dave Filoni voicing him, and then they put like a little filter over it.
Right.
I think he's swearing in a couple of parts too. I think that they're able to get away with it because there's
like a robot.
A robot filter over it, so it's not actually someone saying "you fucking bitch," over and over again.
So those are our pools for Rebels. We can talk about. I think the droid that really, really, really nailed it is Hu Yang.
Yeah,
Hu Yang.
Yeah.
David Tennant is probably. I think Hu Yang might be my favorite droid.
I gotta say, I was not expecting a big Hu Yang David Tennant presence in this show, but he's in I think every episode. Maybe
I wasn't expecting.
He's like Ahsoka's companion on her ship, kind of throughout the adventures that we see in this show. Yeah. So, which is cool.
I wasn't expecting a C-3PO level performance and presence. You know what I mean? Yeah. He is outstanding. As he can deliver heartfelt things. I think some of the things he says, like I can remember after one thing happens, he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, they'll never listen," and it's just like,
yeah.
Oh, dude, it drew a little tear to my eye.
You got this like older mystical droid who's been training Jedi for centuries, for generations. Yeah. And constructing lightsabers and everything like that. Like he knows a thing or two. And he imparts his wisdom, and he's because he's the droid, he doesn't have the filter. He kind of it's the C-3PO thing of just the odds are blah 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 blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that. Hu Yang's kind of the same thing where it's just like, comes into his circuits, he gets spewed out, and everyone just is like, okay, all right, come on, dude, it's great, it's awesome. He's like the biggest. I think he's probably like the singular biggest source of like comedic relief.
Absolutely,
which is a classic droid thing. Obviously, I mean Chopper obviously is, but Chopper's not in it a ton, I don't think.
No, not enough.
He's kind of hanging around with Hera when Hera's involved in whatever's going on in the story. But Hu Yang, I think, probably has the most, sort of dialogue of any of the droids for sure. And honestly, probably a fair chunk more dialogue than most of the other characters that we see.
He plays a huge role.
He's a main player, which was again not what I expected going into this show. I don't know that I don't really know that we got a sense of that from the trailers.
Right.
Yeah. But again, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
And then, of course, you can't talk about Ahsoka without talking about Baylan and
Shin.
Baylan and Shin. Man.
Yeah, this is where the conversation... Oh, we also haven't really talked about Ahsoka herself, for the record.
Oh, but, shit, I skipped right over Ahsoka. So yeah, we could talk about Ahsoka,
which we've seen her before. We've seen, I think it's more, it's almost like splashier because the Rebels characters, we haven't really seen any of them adapted in this particular way. So it is kind of like a big fucking deal of these characters.
Just
that
like
for
when
you spent half a decade with that. You've been, you've been a Star Wars Rebels fan since the beginning. To see kind of that is obviously a pretty holy shit sort of thing. Ahsoka's kind of old news at this point.
Yeah, Ahsoka was holy shit in Mando. You know what I mean?
Right. We saw her in Mando, 3 years ago, whenever season 2 came out. So
this is a more fleshed out, more mature Ahsoka.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can
little older, a little more mature, maybe a little less fun. A little less fun overall.
A little bit more jaded.
Yeah, like she's in maybe a darker spot maybe in kind of her life, and it kind of reflects on her interactions with others and such. She's a little standoffish and cold, I think, and at least certainly at the beginning of this series.
It's fascinating to see how, especially like if you track Ahsoka from, Clone Wars on up, it's really it's her story and her arc as a character very much is just, it's interesting to see that the things that troubled her and drove her in each series has grown with the character, right? Her struggles and everything are completely different now than what they were before. You know what I mean? It just kind of talks about, how life progresses and how your challenges change. I think that her arc in this is super, super, super compelling. And the way that she explores that arc through Hu Yang and some of the other characters, and how that main arc kind of progresses, I think it's really, really, really well done. I like that.
Yes, I agree.
And that's kind of in talking about the show's arcs. There's multiple arcs in this show, and I think that one is definitely the best arc. I think that some of the other arcs, there's a lot. I feel like the show leaves a lot on the table, which is okay, but
it's a lot of setup that we don't have full payoff for within this show. Maybe it comes in a season 2, maybe it comes in a different show, because it's part of this greater, Star Wars universe that they've been building on the Disney Plus with Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and now Ahsoka. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to unpack within this show, but it is kind of not.
It doesn't feel complete.
Not the whole story, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel. I just don't like the way. I felt like it needs one more episode. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. It's. I don't know. To me, it didn't feel incomplete necessarily. Like I feel like there's a sort of poetry, almost. It's Star Wars poetry. It sort of rhymes or whatever. Of how it begins and how it ends in terms of where it leaves characters, where it leaves things.
Yeah, that's true. Sure. I understand.
But at the same time, it is kind of just like fuck you, and sort of the way that it ends, where it's just, I think the tough thing, especially right now, is we don't know when and where this picks up again. I think that's a really kind of tough thing, is not having the next thing to look forward to, or not knowing what the next thing to look forward to is, whether it is a season 2 of just being like, oh, cool, we're going to get these characters right back, and that's fine. All I have to do is wait a year, which is how most TV shows are. They end on a cliffhanger. You're like, oh, fuck, you're in suspense for a year, but then when you're coming back to it. And now between obviously the strikes being an issue, now that they're over, hopefully that's obviously less of an issue moving forward.
Right.
We still don't really know exactly when and where this all kind of goes. And I think that that's kind of a hard thing, especially when something like this is very, very deliberately constructed to just be a part of the story, a middle chapter of sorts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's a fair criticism. Certainly. I think it could definitely be frustrating. I think it's good to know that walking in. I think maybe part of the problem in terms of your response to it as compared to mine, because I'm coming to it way later, kind of having a little bit of an idea of where things went and kind of how people reacted to it, is if you're watching it obviously week to week or whatever, you're expecting an ending, that's like a,
even if it's season
it
1
is an ending,
you know what I mean?
But it is very much a to be continued sort of thing in a bigger way than you might expect. You might have expected, coming in. So it's certainly worth flagging, I think, for anyone that's listening to this that hasn't seen the show and is expecting to kind of just, I haven't been paying attention to The Mandalorian, I haven't been paying attention to Boba Fett or whatever, I'm just going to jump in on Ahsoka and call it a day. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to have a bad time, but you're not going to have a whole story.
I think the way that I kind of grappled with it, because I try to find, it's fucking Star Wars. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be mad about Star Wars. I can't, the way that I've chose to,
then we can be mad, but anyway.
Yeah. The way that I've reconciled it is, this show is an Ahsoka show. It's not a Balin show. It's not a larger.
It's not a Thrawn show, even.
It's not a Thrawn show. It's none of those things. It's not a larger Star Wars conflict thing.
It's not really Star Wars Rebels Season 5.
That's right.
It sort of is. It kind of is. But at the end of the day, what it is trying to be is an Ahsoka show first and foremost, that obviously heavily relies and utilizes a lot of these characters that anyone that has watched Rebels is very familiar with, and is furthering those stories in this kind of new time period, post Return of the Jedi.
So with that being said, I do think that Ahsoka's arc in the show, while incomplete, right? While,
there's
going to be a season
in these
2.
8 episodes.
Right.
For Ahsoka as a character.
Ahsoka's arc it feels tidy. Her arc feels whole. So, with that sense, maybe it's because I'm just, greedy Star Wars guy. I just want all I want it all, right?
But I want all the toys. I want to play with all the toys. I don't want to just play with one or two.
That's it. But as an Ahsoka show, though, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to her arc. No,
that's a good way of looking at it.
So
yeah, no, that's a good read on. Well, again, dancing around things obviously here and non spoilers, but we can get into that and spoilers and stuff. Getting into the fuller details though. Yeah. All right, I kind of pulled you out of it talking about Ahsoka herself, but Balin and Shin, I think, those are new characters. Those are new characters that we get in Ahsoka. One of the few new characters that we get the return of Morgan Elsbeth, who is like a mini villain in The Mandalorian, and she's a more prominent character here. But really, Balin and Shin are like, who the fuck are these guys? You know what I mean? Like, they're really, really interesting. And obviously, there's a real life aspect to their story, which is really hard to watch. At the time that this show came out, but either way, you can talk about the characters, you can talk about the real life kind of side of things. I don't care, but that's where you were. I wanted to pull you back in that direction. And see
yes, Balin. Balin. So what's cool about Balin and Shin is they model. They're kind of like they're exploring the same themes as Ahsoka in the show, and they're kind of like, in Star Wars, you always have you've got the duality, right? You got the light and the dark,
the light side and the dark side, yeah,
right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? What's really cool is you have they those two they're an apprentice and a master, right? And
right,
and the some of the struggles and everything that are present on one side are present on the other, and the way that they deal with those things is interesting. And I thought that felt very, very compelling as bad guys in Star Wars. They are awesome. Their arc is awesome. I don't know to what end. I don't know what their goals are. They're very vague. But Balin in particular. Balin in particular is a ridiculous force in this show. I could almost just take a Balin show. Just give me a fucking Balin show. It'd be fucking cool.
Yeah. I totally agree. Maybe a young Balin, I guess, maybe would be the way to do that at this point. But I totally agree. I think, he's an antagonist in this show. Like, we talked a lot about Thrawn. We open up the episode with a fun fact about Thrawn. Thrawn is obviously a big point of, and emphasis with this show is the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. What does that look like? How does that happen? Can it happen? Is it going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that the show is kind of about. But really, moment to moment, and when we're talking about episode 1, we're talking about the introduction of this mysterious orange lightsaber wielding, fucking gray bearded
beast of a man. He's fucking wide.
Guy. Like, who is this guy? What is he? Is he a Jedi? Is he a Sith? Not quite either. Something. He's just something else. Yeah, super, super fascinating character. I think probably the most interesting in the show overall. We spent a lot of time already, obviously, talking about, hey, it's so cool to see these Rebels characters, animation and live action. It's cool to see them in the different, points in their lives, etc. But there's no one like Balin Skull,
No.
in the rest of this show. Like, he really stands apart. And Shin is interesting, obviously, by extension, too, because she's just kind of a Padawan who obviously clearly is force sensitive and grew up in a time without the old Republic. I guess not the old Republic, but the Jedi Order and stuff being in place. And so she's a very interesting character separately, but not in the same way. Not in the same way that you have Balin as this kind of just driving force, where he clearly has ulterior motives that aren't entirely abundantly clear, really, even through the end. But certainly they're a little bit more apparent, I guess, by the very end. But super super fucking cool, fascinating character
for sure.
Yeah.
And
so it's
a shame that.
Which is why the fact that whenever we would have talked about it, however many months ago, Ray Stevenson, who played Balin, passed away, when he was 58 years old. Had finished filming Ahsoka, but it was, it happened before the show premiered on Disney Plus, and it really is kind of just this cloud over the whole show, and not in a bad way, because his performance is so awesome. Like, he's so fucking good in this show. He almost outclasses most everyone that he's on the screen with.
Right.
And it's not an insult to others, that are on screen. It's just a testament to how fucking good he was. And it's a really, really sad loss that, on multiple levels. You're talking about losing a human being. You're talking about losing a person. You're talking about losing a really good actor who was, I think, in the scheme of life, not very old. I think fairly young. I think we can all agree that people should not be dying at 58 years old. That's certainly far too young to lose someone. But in terms of, just talking about your Star Wars-y sorts of things, which obviously is what we're talking about here, dude played one of the most fascinating, interesting characters that we've seen in Star Wars in years, in recent years. And just walking into this knowing that what he filmed here is all we're going to get from Ray Stevenson particularly, made it just that much more impactful. And the same way that a Heath Ledger performance was in The Dark Knight. Walking into that movie, you knew that was one of his last performances on film, and it's just kind of haunting almost in the same, because you just know that's kind of what you're getting. You know what I mean? Yeah, it really fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does.
At the end of the day, that's really what it boils down to. Is we can be thankful, obviously, that he contributed and made the things that he did in his life, particularly with this, talking about Ahsoka, talking about bringing Balin to life. But it fucking sucks. You know, it fucking sucks, and it's just...
I watched a tribute video of Ray Stevenson. The dude was in a lot of shit.
He was a prolific actor.
Yes.
A lot of shit. Yeah. He was in Star Wars prior to this. You know, he voiced Gar Saxon in Rebels.
Yeah.
And the final season of Clone Wars or whatever. So, yeah,
awesome actor.
It's so hard to talk about it because it's like, oh, this is such a cool, interesting character, and we'll get into it more in spoilers. But it's like, how do they do this? How does this work in the future? You know, sucks.
Does suck for sure. Definitely a commanding role, and he nailed it. And what's really cool is because like you don't know. No. Like you say, he's not Sith, right? And he's not.
What's this guy's deal?
What's his deal?
We don't really totally know.
And usually,
but he's intriguing.
Usually, the bad guys in Star Wars, like you know, mainly maybe it's because we only really ever see Sith, I guess. But you also got like I don't know. He's just so much more calm and collective.
Right. He's not. I don't know. I don't even know what Darth Maul's motivation was in the first place, but obviously we got a little bit more shades of that throughout Clone Wars and Rebels, where it's really, he was very revenge motivated. Right. Dooku, I think, had a legitimate gripe with the Jedi Order and kind of turned Sith as a means to an end there. And then you have fucking Palpatine, who's, you know, is a cackling fucking villainous asshole who just wants power. Unlimited power! You know, that sort of thing. And right. Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy. You know, that sort of thing. So getting Balin here is a very different kind of.
It's a different flavor
of the Force.
Yeah.
You know, it's the kind of shit. Talked about it a little bit. You know, already with the Rebel stuff, like the shit like the Bendu, where it's just like, oh, that's fucking different. That's new. I like that. That's the sort of thing that, you know, even say what you will about, you know, things in the sequel trilogy. To me, it was at its most interesting when it was trying to do new and different things and not just recycling the old shit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And Star Wars really just needs that. Like even Mando, when it first started, was such a breath of fresh air because it wasn't just Jedi, Sith, lightsabers. You know, it was just kind of what's a fucking bounty hunter, you know, doing
space western
post Return of the Jedi. Yeah, space western sort of shit. And obviously this is fully just sort of Jedi and lightsabers and kind of the sorts of Star Wars-y, tropey sort of things that you'd come to expect. But it's more than that. You know, it gives you enough new, it gives you enough familiar, enough old that it feels fundamentally Star Wars. But again, there's just that extra little bit that's kind of woven in that keeps it really, really interesting. And that's to me, again, as it was with Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars, obviously, that's the Dave Filoni touch. I mean, he directed a good chunk of these. I think he wrote all the episodes. You know, so yeah, you know, it's kind of his thing. And I think that, you know, no one does Star Wars quite like Dave Filoni does.
No, he gets it for sure. He nailed it. I think, So,
I mean, I guess, Do you have any overall thoughts on the show? I guess, you know,
overall thoughts on the show.
I guess that somewhat bleeds into recommendation. I don't know if you're quite. We can go there.
The only thing that I wanted to say is I think there were missed opportunities with the score. I think that there's we'll get into
one particular one, perhaps.
One particular one, yes. And we'll get into it in spoilers. Why I think that might be. At least I'm hopeful.
Okay.
Seems like. Okay. But I think the missed opportunity is probably an artistic one. So maybe it's not missed. It's just not the right time.
An intentional omission, perhaps. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Again, feeds into the conversation of we don't know what's coming. So it's hard to be able to know, you know, obviously, if that's going to be the case. So
anyways, we can talk about recommendations if you're ready. Yeah.
I mean, I think we've had a fairly good back and forth instead of, you know, sometimes we monologue at each other. Sometimes I think we've avoided that here, which is good. But I think we really talked about a lot of what I probably would have talked about had I been monologuing. The only thing I'll add in terms of just little things I think that haven't come up yet. I actually did think the music overall was very good, especially the end, like the credits theme I thought was very good. Mm-hmm. It's Kevin Kiner who did the music on Star Wars Rebels. So I kind of to not to jump totally ahead, obviously, to what you're alluding to, but I'm pretty sure I know what you're alluding to. I have to imagine it was intentional for some reason. We don't know what the reason is, but I have to imagine it's intentional. But we'll get to that. The other thing I'll say is I think that, with these Disney Plus shows, it's kind of been a mixed bag in terms of the visual and like the production design of certain things. Whereas I think like Andor is like the gold standard, where it seems like a lot of stuff was very practically done. It was obviously a Star Wars show, but it felt and looked really real. And I think on the flip side, you have something like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it did feel very volumey, like it felt kind of that sort of digital thing. I think this landed for me somewhere in between. Like I thought, like the stunt work, like the lightsaber stuff, the action sequences were all really, really well done. I think the general designs of everyone was generally speaking pretty well done.
Speaking of the lightsaber battles, not to cut you off, but
well, that's fine. I'll allow it.
I tried to make a note of it, but I obviously forgot to say something. I think that the combat in this show is some of the best in Star Wars.
Oh, I thought it was really good. Yeah,
there's
just the choreography was
the choreography
good in a way that didn't feel choreographed, if that makes sense. Like it felt like true combat.
Yeah, it felt dueling. It felt like dueling. It felt like there was weight to the sabers. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, I feel like the prequels, particularly the lightsabers, kind of felt floaty and weightless. When it made for showy things and lots of spinning, and that's a good trick and whatever. And I think the Force Awakens actually, and The Last Jedi to a certain extent, did a good job of giving the sabers more kind of weight, because obviously, like the original trilogy, they did have literal fucking weight to them because of the way that they filmed it, where they were these fucking heavy ass rods that they're swinging around. In the old, and I think in the original trilogy, it kind of hampered it because it was just like, there's only so much that we can do at this time to keep this. And it got better, obviously, throughout. I think New Hope has kind of the saddest duels, and then Empire has a pretty good duel with Luke and Vader, and then Return of the Jedi, I think, has the best lightsaber duel of the original trilogy. But here, there's a lot. There's lightsabers and knighting in pretty much every episode, if not literally every episode, and there's some sort of combat duel sort of thing going on in everyone. But it didn't just feel perfunctory. It did feel kind of impactful battles, and
it feels like swordplay.
Oh, it was good stuff. Yeah. I agree.
I thought the combat was awesome.
Plus, we got maybe we talk about fucking Marok. I kind of forgot he was in the show. He's got the spinny and stupid ass Inquisitor red lightsaber thing.
Yeah,
which was entertaining to see in live action. I guess we probably saw something like that in Kenobi, but I've kind of already forgotten. Like when I think about again translating animated designs to live action, I think maybe that's a good thing to talk about. Is like, man, they really botched those Inquisitor designs in Kenobi. Whereas here, they did a pretty admirable to good job of adapting everyone. No one here looked fucking stupid as shit. They maybe a little off. All right, fine, yeah. But purely from a visual standpoint, I think they got it right. So
yes, agree. 100%.
Making that note. And I thought the show was a little slow to start. I thought the pacing kind of took them 2-3 episodes to really get into gear. And I think that is kind of partially why I was so fucking slow to watch it. Was it just didn't quite grab my interest. I think there's a little space dogfight sort of stuff in the third episode, and that's where it's kind of just all right, getting it. And then episode 4, I think, is kind of where it really started to find the overall hook and advance the storyline in a meaningful way, and get these kind of characters in a place that was more interesting and furthering their dynamics. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts in terms of non-spoilers that I wanted to throw out that we haven't talked about already. So mini monologue, but recommendation. Where do you stand on Ahsoka? How would you recommend it? Would you say that it is a very yes show, maybe a yes show, maybe a totally fine TV show, or a fine show, or a shit house show? What do you think? Where do you stand?
It's better than Obi-Wan.
Yes, totally agree. Yeah, I guess we could also do a sort of light, how does this compare to the Disney Plus other things?
Stuff.
It's also better than Boba Fett. I think we can probably go ahead and throw that out right
definitely.
now.
Yeah, definitely better than Boba. Definitely better than
no
Obi-Wan.
fucking Vespas or whatever in this one.
I enjoyed the serialized nature of the show. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think I mean, Mando is good for its own reasons because it is kind of like a space western, but I like the episodic kind of feel of the show. I mean, it's right up there with and it's not Andor. It's not
Andor is top tier Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fair.
It belongs right there with the best Mando.
With the best of Mando. I agree. I would agree with that. It certainly slots in right alongside that.
And I think we're going to see good things. We're going to see huge shockwaves from the show. It's going to propel what comes next for Star Wars television and I would probably guess movies and stuff. It's going to propel the IP forward in a big way. There's too many loose ends for them not to pursue these things, and on the silver screen and the small screen, I think it's gonna. If you're invested in Star Wars, you have to watch it, and I think
this does feel like a very pivotal pivot point, where it's just kind of honestly, it really is setting in motion. I think probably what the next big arc of Star Wars is in terms of just content. Like maybe we're getting some High Republic stuff going on the side that's several hundred years back, but in terms of this post Return of the Jedi era stuff that we've been getting with Mando, everything, this to me definitely feels like it's advancing things in a much bigger way, even than like Mando season 3 was, which obviously was important, in terms of the Mandalorian side of things, in terms of that sort of side of the lore. This is very much more on like a no. Everything that's happening here implicates much bigger threats to the galaxy as a whole. You know what I mean? So
sure.
I would say that the show for my money, I think hovers around a yes. Probably overall, I think it starts around a yes, and then I think it kind of ratchets up to closer to a very yes. I think by the end, I think as it kind of finds its footing, as it kind of keeps the plot moving. So I kind of would say it's probably somewhere between a yes and a very yes for myself in terms of just purely recommending it on our arbitrary dumb scale. But that's where I stand. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. Obviously that's something that I can't capture, and just picking one of 5 things is just saying that I really, really enjoyed it. And it was a little slow and a little, kind of meandering a little bit. In service of setting things up, obviously, and getting things going. I don't think it was wasted time necessarily. I think it's just, it gets more interesting as things get moving, and that's how a lot of stories are. That's how stories generally are, is slow in the beginning, picks up. I think here it's just tough when it's a TV show, when you're talking about an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of stuff, where it's just like, all right, now we're fucking
right.
Now we're in the good parts.
I also think it's tough when you're trying to establish so many different.
It's tough because they have to reintroduce these characters or introduce these characters. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
Because I think that, you can get away with maybe saying that people should know who Ahsoka is from her appearance in Mando. People don't really know who Ahsoka is, you know what I mean? I think there is some stuff that really kind of helps fill in the Clone Wars gaps that you would have if you hadn't seen that show and wouldn't have grown up, obviously, with seeing Ahsoka, when she was Anakin's Padawan. But I think particularly you're talking about these Rebels characters, you're talking about Hera, Sabine, Ezra, Thrawn. Like, if you haven't watched Rebels, and I guess if you don't have the EU exposure for Thrawn, I guess, you're not going to know who any of these fucking people are. So they do have to spend some time being like, this is so-and-so, here's their deal, here's what's going on, here's a mural of the Star Wars Rebels, this was a TV show for kids, but also not really. It's definitely pretty adulty in certain parts. Death and destruction and that sort of thing. But it's totally for kids.
Unless you drop them in 2 different shows. You have a live-action continuation of Rebels, and then you have Ahsoka and Balin. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's what they do.
Doing their own thing,
But the way that they did it here is, we got to spend time getting people up to speed. You're not going to have the fuller context that you would have had if you had seen all these things. But hey, here's your crash course. Good enough. Go. You know what I mean? So I think that holds it back. I think for people like you and I, more so you, obviously, who, you've known these characters for years and years. For me, it's like, actually, I don't know, even probably the same for me, because I really went straight from Rebels into this, and it's just like, yeah, I know who these people are.
Probably, maybe more so for you because you're fresh.
Right. Yeah, you had 5 years layoff or whatever, just being like, yeah, it's nice to see these familiar faces. They're a little older, they look a little different, but it's just nice. It just warms my little heart, And then for me, I'm just like, yeah, I know who these fucking people are. Let's go. Move on. So yeah, that's fair.
There was one spot in particular. We'll talk about it in spoilers very soon.
We could do it now, maybe even if you want.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
Want to do full spoilers for Ahsoka? Let's do it. Full spoilers. Let's go. All right, you finish that thought, and then I know you have many other spoiler thoughts. But
when Ezra meets Hera again, gets reunited with Hera.
That tug on the old heartstrings.
That tugged big time. My lip quivered a little bit, and Sarah looked over at me and started laughing. She's like, "What?"
Was she watching this with you, or just happened to be in the room?
Yeah, it's like you just have no idea. I've spent so much.
I've spent years of my life with these characters.
Exactly.
I watched him grow up from a little boy to a man.
Exactly. That's what it was. And he's effectively meeting his
space mom.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it was so good. That's got to be probably one of the top moments in the show for me when he gets reunited with Hera.
I like how he does it in like perfect dramatic Ezra fashion of walking out in the fucking night trooper suit, and everyone's like, what the fuck? That's a stormtrooper, but what the fuck is he wearing? Yeah. Oh, it's just fucking Ezra. Oh shit, that's fucking Ezra. Oh, it's just a yeah. He's dramatic, but in the most Ezra way possible.
Yeah, he's a lovable guy. I don't know how I feel about Night Sisters and zombies. I'm not quite sure. I'm waiting for that to kind of like
it feels a little like the video games almost, because I feel like Marin is a Night Sister, right? And you go to, I haven't played the second one, to be fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But obviously Dathomir you go to in the first one, probably in the second one.
And they got zombies and stuff.
Yeah, so it kind of feels along those lines, but it's almost like there's almost like compartmentalization of like video game shit, zombies is fine, live action, how does this work? Is this getting into perilous territory of a bridge too far for some reason? I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting, the inclusion of all the Dathomirian connections or whatever, but I can certainly see it being, a little jarring, perhaps.
And it was just, I don't know.
I liked Thrawn's right hand man, Captain Enoch.
I thought he was pretty awesome.
Had almost like Roman looking or whatever, like mask over the stormtrooper helmet was cool.
Have you heard the TikTok thing where guy's girlfriend or wife or whatever will ask the guy, how often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Yes.
And the guys will be like, I don't know, not very often. Well, how would you put a number on it? I don't know, probably maybe 3 times a week. And Enoch pops up on the screen like, hey, Roman Empire right now.
Yeah, every week you're getting reminded. You don't even have to think about it yourself. You're already probably independently thinking about it, obviously, all the time.
Right, exactly.
But then you're just having a forced reminder there.
Anyways, cool. Enoch's design is awesome. All the designs are cool. Really fucking cool. Speaking of which, Thrawn's design. So Thrawn's always been like the pinnacle of like he's
imperial perfection, like
right, as an alien in the Empire,
which is unusual.
It is unusual. Yeah, they talk a lot about the bigotry and stuff in the books. He's faced a lot of uphill battles that he's only won through sheer perfection and being like super brain guy, right? Like he's the smartest guy in any room, and he just outdoes everybody. For his live action, he came in with the big poofy pants and like the tears in his uniform and stuff. And
yeah, he's in a rough patch right now, a little disheveled looking,
right? But he still commands. He still has that presence. You know, he has the
presence. Yes.
So with that being said, I think that's why we don't get the proper Thrawn theme.
Okay. Yes, to tie back into that.
It's still commanding.
We don't hear it at all.
You don't hear it.
You don't hear the organs coming in. You think, Because I mean, the show fucking spent, it takes its time. We don't see Thrawn until episode 6. We're 3/4 of the way into this fucking show before we even get the Thrawn reveal. And you'd think the big moment of triumph when it gets revealed is, you hearing the organs coming in, and it's not. There is this sort of like ominous theme that they use, but it's not his theme. So you think that that's maybe intentional,
and maybe it's corrupted by the Night Sisters or this or that. I mean, I don't see Thrawn hinging his success on working with the Night Sisters. That is not an alliance that I see is going to be something that lasts. Right.
No, it's a means to an end.
Exactly.
Thrawn needs to get back. And obviously he has limited means at his disposal. He's got to work with what he's got, over on Peridia. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I think it's the planet that, he gets stuck on, which is in a different fucking galaxy from the galaxy far, far away that we're accustomed to seeing in Star Wars. It's a literal fucking different galaxy, which I think is, again, I think that's new, right? Like, have we ever seen any shit like that?
No, it's incredible. So. It's awesome. Totally different fucking galaxy.
Not in the live action canon. Like, obviously it's this very small sliver. We just see a planet which could just be any Star Wars planet, but we know that he's so fucking separated that the entire thrust of the storyline, of the villains of this show is building a spacecraft that can have this fucking inter-galaxy travel just so they can bring Thrawn back. Like, that's how fucking intense it is. It's not just, he's just in the Outer Rim. Let's just, go out there and go grab him.
Yeah,
like, no, it's a big ordeal. Like, it is.
It's not even mapped.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, that's another thing. They had to find a fucking map. All these goddamn maps. There's a map to Luke Skywalker. There's a map to some fucking Star Destroyer crashed in The Rise of Skywalker. I forgot what's going on there, but it's on this guy's dagger or some shit. I'm a little tired of maps in Star Wars, I will say. I think
this map did it best, though. This was the best map
I
I've
agree.
ever
This
seen.
was the best of them of the ones where it's just like, all right, well, I guess
there was so much cool shit in the show, dude. So much cool shit.
Yeah, because we got like a little Uncharted Indiana Jones ass shit in the beginning with Ahsoka, fucking turning shit around. It's just like, I don't know what's happening here, but
it's pretty fucking cool.
It looks
those
cool.
droids,
She fights the droids and stuff. That's true. But yeah, the map stuff's a little played out. But I'm almost like, well, how the hell else are you going to get Thrawn back? I mean, there is kind of like the
and I
think
the
dream sort of thing of like I've entered your dreams through witch magic or whatever, and it's like, all right, fucking witchcraft, fine, I'll allow it.
force witches, I get it.
It's some weird force shit going on, dark magic, force things going on. Okay, sure, why not? But
I think if I had to predict anything, I think that it's a hot take. Maybe it's not a hot take. I don't know.
I'm listening.
I'll
be the one to judge. I will decide.
I think that Thrawn will betray the Night Sisters, and in response, that betrayal, while it might look like it serves him well, I think that betrayal will end up being the end of Thrawn.
Will that be his downfall?
That's right.
Yeah, you don't fuck with witches. They got witchcraft. That's bad news.
Right. They get you in your dreams. They get in your head. I think.
That would be a classic sort of thing. Again, to tie into what we talked about with Rebels, is like Thrawn's undoing was never like something that he accounted for, because he accounts for all the rational known elements that he can think of. And I guess maybe you could call the Night Sisters maybe something along those lines. But if he's so focused on how to outsmart the New Republic or whatever at this point, if you're talking about Hera, Mon Mothma, whoever is kind of his adversary, Ezra, Sabine, Ahsoka, assuming they obviously get from where they're stuck at the end of the show, etc. Maybe the wrinkle that he doesn't account for is the fact that, hey, maybe stepping on people along the way to glory can burn you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I could see that certainly being the case, and especially when the people you're stepping on, if you are indeed stepping on them, are fucking witches. You know what I mean? So
that's true. I don't know though. We'll see. Maybe he gets there, and maybe he cuts ties with them. Maybe they just want to retake Dathomir and bring back all their zombies or whatever, and then that's the end of Thrawn. Who knows?
Thrawn's using them as a means to an end. They're using Thrawn as a means to an end. Maybe, yeah. think
I don't know.
there's certainly some
it'd be
rationale
exciting
there.
to see where that goes.
Well, that's the sort of thing we just don't know. We don't know when it's going to continue. So yeah,
this is a literal globe-trotting show. Mini globes. What's your favorite set piece?
Oh, set piece. Or
I guess favorite moment, maybe.
Oh, put me on the spot. All right. But I have to say, this is maybe a little left field. Maybe you're not expecting this answer. I have a special... Okay, I think I probably have an actual answer, but I'm going to stick with my sort of thing that popped in my head first. I have a special fondness for the fact that when Ahsoka, maybe Sabine at that point, I can't remember exactly how. It's Sabine because Ahsoka's separate.
Okay.
Because Ahsoka's traveling in the Purgle, right? Sabine hitches a ride with Balin and company through the ring to the other galaxy, and so Sabine is sent off looking for Ezra, and she finds this rock, which turns out to be a little hermit crab little fucking thing, and then it turns out there's a whole bunch of hermit crab little things, and then it turns out Ezra has been living among the fucking hermit crab little things for forever. So I think anything involving the Noti, which is what they're called, I had a grin on my face the whole time. I thought they were fantastic. The sort of goofy, ridiculous puppet Star Wars sort of shit that I fucking love. You know what I mean?
That's pretty great. Ewoks. Little Ewoks.
They're little Ewoks. They're fucking, little puppet Yoda, how you get so big with food to this guy? That sort of shit where it's just, there's a little touch of humor, right? Of like, yeah, this is serious business. You're talking about a Grand Admiral coming back and threatening the legitimacy of not the legitimacy, but, threatening the new established order, bringing the Empire back. Like, that's the heir to the Empire coming back seems like a bad fucking thing to happen. You probably don't want it to happen. But look at these cute little hermit crab things. They're great. We love them. But actually, I think, honestly, the thing that I thought was probably the coolest moment overall, where I kind of was like really, really enraptured, was when Ahsoka, drowns, quote unquote, drowns on I guess she's at Peridia, and so she enters the world beyond worlds, and who does she meet but one Anakin Skywalker? And I think that like the kind of tour through her Clone Wars background, I thought seeing that in live action was just awesome. Yeah, and it was done in that to me was done in this sort of volumey sort of way, where it was clear everything was digital because it was just like a hazy, smoky background with color.
But it's supposed to be.
But it's supposed to be. Right, exactly. It was kind of intended to be sort of ethereal feeling, like you're not literally supposed to be there. You're just kind of seeing these moments of Ahsoka's life and seeing young Ahsoka, which I will say, shout out to Ariana Greenblatt is the actress's name. She must have the fucking best agent in town because she was in Barbie. She was in Barbie earlier this year. She was the daughter. She was in the 65 with Adam Driver. She was the kid in that. Not that we saw it or talked about it, but good for her. It's a movie. Hanging out with Adam Driver. But she was also young Gamora. And,
yes.
And I guess Infinity War would have been. And I think she was in one other thing that was just like, man, this girl is in every fucking like pop culture thing imaginable, which is quite impressive, I will say. Maybe that was it. That might be it. I'm double checking, see if I missed one other thing. No, I think that was it. But still, Avengers, Barbie, Ahsoka, pretty damn impressive.
You're checking all the boxes
in 65. So but I think putting that aside, just seeing like Captain Rex, and just seeing just all of like the Clone Wars stuff, the Clone Troopers and everything, like to me that was like such a, I don't know, it was cool. And obviously with the going through this thing where she's interacting with Anakin, like some version of Anakin, challenging her. You see Anakin like oscillating between, Anakin, with the fucking Clone Wars, costume on, which is sick, but then like, cool. Interspersed with like moments of Vader and the red lightsaber and everything. And They even have like this fucking, weird, duel within this world, between worlds, and it's like trippy, but it's really, really cool. So I think that actually might have been the like standout sort of thing for me, of just like a moment that was just like, oh, I can't believe I'm seeing this in live action. This is the only sort of shit that you see in cartoons, like literally in cartoons. That was really cool.
It was really cool. I agree. I think everything.
So anyway,
when I first asked the question, it was favorite set piece, and then it became favorite moment. Favorite set piece for me is
I was going to turn it around on you anyway. So yes, all right. What do you got?
Favorite set piece was going to be everything on that planet. The map that explodes into view, poof, and it's like a half dome, and then Balin and Ahsoka get in a fight, and then you got the world between worlds, and
all right, it's not on Pretty, it's on Cetos or whatever.
Yeah, it's the one they have to go.
It's before they jump from there. Yes, okay, yes. Small correction.
You get that cool ass ship with a giant ring. That's cool.
Pretty cool.
I mean, I guess that's not part of the same set piece, but it's part of like the same area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's hanging out in the atmosphere or whatever, just outside it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the lightsaber battle there between Balin and Ahsoka. I thought that was awesome. And that's where she drowns, I guess, or falls into the world between worlds. I'm not quite sure how that. Or I think she was. I don't know. I don't know. Did she physically go, or is it like a mental thing?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, she definitely gets knocked off the cliff into literal water. So I don't know if it's like a force, like the world, like maybe this is like a really force, like a force cave sort of thing, but not literally, but like something about it draws her into that and kind of brings her out of it. I don't know. I think it's kind of a left in the, up in the air sort of.
And that's where you also find out where Kanan's kids he's force sensitive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we haven't talked about little Jason at all. Jason Syndulla. Yeah.
So that's cool too. A lot of cool stuff.
I liked the little mentions of Kanan throughout. I think they owe it to Freddie Prinze to give him a live action flashback at some point. I don't need no resurrection of Kanan Jarrus, obviously, but I would love to see. I'd love to see like a Rebels era. I guess it could be tough because you're talking about like de-aging a lot of people, or recasting everyone, and then it's like, is it worth it? Although you could look, Sabine could be in the helmet, or Force Ghost him. That would be cool. I think we technically do hear his voice in The Rise of Skywalker to some small credit of that movie as he makes a voice appearance, talking to Rey. I want to see Freddie Prinze Jr. and this. I'm right. I feel like the man doesn't get enough work these days. He's fucking Fred, and Scooby-Doo to me. Like that's when I see Freddie Prinze Jr., that's what I think of. And I'm like, I need that to be replaced by badass live action Kanan iteration. So I hope it happens at some point. Like Force Ghost, flashback, whatever the case may be. I want something like that. Give the man something. Yeah.
Other than that though, I thought, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've hit on a lot, I think, especially with non-spoilers. Well, I guess maybe the big question moving forward is, what the fuck do you do with Balin, right? Because his story is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the easiest and obvious solution.
Unless he sold his likeness to AI, then you could just AI him.
Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe don't do that. But certainly Lucasfilm and Star Wars, they have not been opposed to bringing back dead actors from the grave. I think that it's a little different when you're talking about, a brief little cameo for Leia or Tarkin, or a little bit more than a cameo for Tarkin, I guess, in Rogue One. It's a little different. I think that because it's so recent, I think it would be really hard for, I don't know. You got to recast. I think at the end of the day, his character is too cool. His story is too interesting to just discard because of obviously Rey dying, and again, it sucks. It sucks so bad that he couldn't come back. He won't be able to come back and do more with this character when there's clearly so much more that's intended for this character. but I need to see more. I need to see what's going on. We see the statue of like the Mortis, family, the
father,
the father and the son, and then the daughter, I think, is kind of, eroded away because the daughter is dead. And that's like a Clone Wars and Rebels connection that Dave clearly has grand designs for. And I'm really curious to see how that all kind of ties into everything, So, yeah, I need more there. Recast, whatever, you need to do. I think, it's going to be a really tough situation for any actor to try to fill those shoes. But at the same time, and it's an apples and oranges scenario to some extent, but I will say credit where credit is due. It probably couldn't have been easy for Mary Elizabeth Winstead, for Natasha Liu Bordizzo, for Rosario Dawson, for Iman Esfandi, for any of these people to come in and inhabit these characters that people already know and love from the animation. Again, it's not a totally analogous scenario, but it is a tough sort of thing. Where it's just like, well, if you don't do it right, people are gonna be like mad at you.
They're gonna Georgia
people are gonna yeah. So I think to take beloved characters and try to bring them to life and honor kind of what they are and how they are, like, that was a tough gig. In the same way that I think anyone trying to step into the shoes that Ray Stevenson leaves behind, it's a really tough sell. It's a really tough gig. But I think that the right actor can, even if they're not exactly the same, they're not doing the same thing. Enough of the intrigue, is there with the character. I think there's a way to certainly move it forward, and and it will always be a what if for us of being like, oh man, if Ray could have been able to continue in this role, but yeah, I don't know. That to me is, I'm more interested in knowing about that because that's such a mystery. That's so outside of what we know. Because at the end of the day, Thrawn is back. That's a big deal. Then that's going to cause some problems for the New Republic.
But we know what that conflict kind of looks like, too.
Correct. The inherent nature of something like this, which is set smack dab between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, is I ain't seen no Thrawn in the sequel trilogy. You know what I mean? Right. The Empire has not returned. Not really. There's the First Order. Maybe it ties into that. Maybe Thrawn's actions lead to the creation of the First Order. That could work. That could be something. But at the end of the day, we kind of know that Thrawn can't succeed because unless they do a Rebels thing of sending him away for another 30 years so that they can then pick it up with an old Rey. And old Rey's here and now Thrawn's going to come back. And it's like, all right, well, how ridiculous is this going to be? So we imagine that the Thrawn stuff's going to get resolved. We know that there's a movie that's supposed to be like the capper to the Mando stuff that is probably, coalescing with this big Thrawn storyline where Thrawn makes his final, grand plan, puts it into action, and the New Republic has to make their last stand against him. That's probably the movie that Dave Filoni is doing that ties everything together and brings it all home. But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess what it could mean is maybe Ahsoka dies, maybe your characters from Rebels that have been introduced in this show, like maybe the cost of defeating Thrawn is losing all these characters, and that's your nice, clean way to, not have these characters involved in the sequel trilogy, in which case, all right, maybe that does give weight to the fact that even though we know that maybe Thrawn himself won't be successful, maybe he's going to take some bodies with him, in the way that we lost Kanan and Rebels because of Thrawn and because, I guess, Price and everyone and everything that happened with that. So, yeah. I guess the point I'm making is the Baylan stuff is interesting because it's new. The Thrawn stuff is maybe a little less interesting because it's not necessarily new. It's kind of old hat, and we kind of know maybe where it's going to end. But the actual, maybe it's not about the destination. Maybe it's about the journey of getting there. The old adage sort of thing. So, that's probably it. There's probably other things that we could talk about that I probably have coming to mind. But you know what? The story is intentionally left in a way that it's to be continued. Ahsoka and Sabine are stranded on this fucking other galaxy. Almost certainly not going to stay there forever. Almost certainly gonna find a way back somehow. Maybe Ezra and Hera go there. Maybe they Purgle their way back. Even though I think the Purgles were like, we're never coming back here. What the fuck?
They jumped into a fucking minefield. Yeah,
yeah. So we know that that's going to be resolved in some way, or at least we can assume that that's going to be resolved in some way. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's next. We know Skeleton Crew is coming out. Maybe I guess next year, obviously at this point. And that's part of the Mandoverse, the same timeline, but I just don't see it really having a lot of direct connections to this. So I think that we're going to be waiting another year or two before we really pick up the major threads with the storyline. At least that's my anticipation anyway. So
I'm flipping through pictures here, and I'm looking at Darth Sidious in Clone Wars, or
good.
And how did nobody know that dude was evil? He's like the most evil looking motherfucker I've ever seen.
Well, he got scarred by a Jedi, So
no, I mean before that, when he's just specifically the Clone Wars stuff. Like he's got these big.
I think the Clone Wars they really played up, like even when he is Palpatine, of just being like, oh, this guy's obviously evil because it's a kid's cartoon, so they had to incorporate into the visual design. No, just because he's not wearing the hood, he's still evil.
Anyways, that's all I got.
It's a little more subtle in live action when he's not, fucked up, disfigured looking Palpatine. So anyway, all right. Have we done it? Have we talked about Ahsoka?
We've done it. We've talked about it.
You feel good about this? You feel good about our conversation?
I do.
All right. Well, I feel good about it as well. And you know what? To be continued. Whenever we get the story, continuation, whatever form that takes. More Ahsoka. I don't know. Whatever form it takes. I'm sure we'll be there, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. So yeah, there it is. That's Ahsoka. And I think it's time to move on and talk about what we've been up to. Yes, we've been here a long time, so hopefully neither of us have a whole lot to say on this front. But alas, I will ask you nonetheless, for the sake of completing this episode, and so that we're not catching up on a month's worth of stuff the next time we record. Anything you've been up to you want to talk about? Shout out.
No, I can't quite think of anything.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I've just been watching Lord of the Rings. I had a sick day with the baby today, and we watched some cartoons. Oh, I watched James and the Giant Peach. I don't know if you've seen that in a while.
Oh, okay. I have. No, it's been a long time.
Watched that, and I watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
Very nice. So like some stop motion shit, kind of thing.
And that was pretty cool.
Sensing a little theme anyway.
Both of which were can't think of his name now. He was involved in both projects though.
Okay.
Who directed Nightmare Before Christmas?
It's not Tim Burton. I think he produced it, but it's another guy.
Okay, well Tim Burton produced both Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach. They're both Tim Burton projects. So that was the name I was looking for.
All right. Okay.
And both.
It is the same director though. Henry Selick is the guy that directed both of them. So Selick Burton, I guess collab, you might say.
Yeah. Both are cool. Anyways, that's it. That's all I've been up to besides, Lord of the Rings.
All right.
What about you?
All right.
What you been up to?
You didn't do anything for spooky season? Anything? You watch anything scary? It's been a while since we talked about anything.
I don't think we watched anything super scary. No.
All right.
We did some trunk or treating with the baby. He was a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
Which was cute. But aside from that, I can't think of anything super scary that we watched. Oh, fuck. We finished watching that scary show. It's the Netflix thing.
Haunting of Hill House. I think you've been watching that. Is that okay?
Yeah, we finished that. Have you heard of my opinions on that show?
Not the whole shebang. No, I think just bits and pieces. Yeah.
A Haunting of Hill House. It was just okay. It didn't blow my socks off.
Right.
It was. It had some scary stuff, and it was kind of just a drama piece, and I don't know. It was okay. Whatever.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you can say that you finished that. That's at least that's a notch in the belt for this episode, if nothing else. So
that's it.
All right. Well, on my end, I think just going movie to TV stuff to other stuff. I watched a movie on Paramount Plus by the name of Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
Ooh.
Which came out in theaters earlier this year, and we obviously did not cover it. It was a Transformers movie, is how I'd feel about it. I think better than most of the Michael Bay shit, which is obviously not saying much, but definitely not as good as Bumblebee, which is kind of what it was following up on. It's like a Beast Wars thing, but I felt like it really underutilized the Maximals and the Beast Wars characters, and so I felt like that was disappointing. But at the end of the day, it was kind of just a generic Transformers thing. Do you care about and spoilers for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts by any chance?
No, I don't.
Some of you do not. They set up a G.I. Joe crossover, so I'm really curious to see how they follow up on that.
Oh man.
So Transformers X G.I. Joe in the future should be pretty interesting. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. On the non-spooky side of things as well, we finished the first season of The Crown. I know we talked about it a while back. We kind of took a break, I think, while we were finishing Rebels and going through Ahsoka and whatnot. But we finished the first season of The Crown. The final season starts this month, finishes next month. They're like splitting it in two on Netflix, like Stranger Things style. And first season was incredible. Amazing production values, great acting. Really, really compelling, really interesting stuff. Even for someone like me who's not a big like royal head or whatever, like, I don't really know shit about the fucking royal family in Britain or whatever, but it was very, very well done that first season, so I would definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix. I'm not the first person to say it's a good show by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly worth mentioning. Our spooky show of the year was American Horror Story, the second season, which is Asylum, so we watched all of that in the past however long it's been since we recorded a regular episode. We watched 13 episodes, and it was I think I enjoyed it overall. They ran out of story after 11 episodes, and there's like the 12th episode was like fucking horrible. It was like really bad, and they were like really trying to stretch things, and it was like, Jesus fucking Christ, they're trying to Game of Thrones it, is what they were doing in one single episode. The finale was a bit better, but still kind of unnecessary, and it kind of just, I don't know, it kind of soured my experience. Was the fact that it really didn't quite know how to stick the landing overall. But I liked the setting. It's a show like the first season, which we watched either last year or the year before. It's really all over the place. So, it's horror story, so they throw in like as many horror-y sort of things. So you've got, not in any particular order, aliens, serial killers, Nazis, creatures, probably more other things that I'm already forgetting about. Fucking exorcism. There's the devil. The devil possesses someone in it. So it's like,
oh man,
what is this fucking show? And so it's quite all over the place. But some of that was really, really, really well done, and some of it was fine overall. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings on it. It's a good show to watch, like a season every year, but I can't imagine binging any more than one season in a row, because it really kind of, this one really particularly did overstay its welcome by the end. Started Castlevania Nocturne. I'm only like an episode in, but I enjoyed it.
Did I tell you that?
You finished that. I think you talked about it. I think when we talked about the creator, I think you had finished it, because you flew through it, I think, pretty quickly, if I'm not mistaken. So it felt like Castlevania, but like, kind of a new era, and I enjoyed that. So I definitely want to watch more of it. But yeah, I'm like barely into it right now, so not much to say there. Now and Then, The Last Beatles Song is a documentary they put up on Disney Plus. It's like 12 minutes. I just watched it while I was folding laundry in place of X-Men the Animated Series, which is my usual go-to. It's a really cool thing. So, Peter Jackson put out his 900-hour long Beatles documentary, which I haven't watched. But in the process of doing that, they kind of basically were able to perfect technology using AI to like isolate vocal tracks and certain sorts of things from like other sources. And so the Beatles, obviously, John Lennon died, he was killed, and there were only 3 left at that point when that happened. I think in the 90s they had this idea, the Yoko Ono, I think, had found like tapes of John Lennon like singing like a song with him playing the piano and singing over top it, and she gave it to the rest of the Beatles. And they went into a studio, and they were trying to like basically make this last song called Now and Then, which would have been the last Beatles song with all the contributions from all of the members of the Beatles. And they found an issue where basically because they couldn't separate the piano from John Lennon's vocals, they couldn't quite do it the way they wanted to, so they kind of scrapped it, and then time went on, George Harrison died, and so now with basically the new advances in technology, they ended up they made this new fucking Beatles track,
Oh man,
with full-on vocals from John Lennon. George Harrison had recorded guitar parts that they used in this version, and then obviously Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr are still with us. And so they recorded new stuff for it, and they put out so that you can actually just listen to the song. You listen on Apple Music, Spotify, or whatever. There's a horrid music video where they did some weird fucking bullshit of like superimposing the dead Beatles with the live Beatles in the studio, and I thought that was ghastly, and I didn't like that at all. But the actual documentary, which is on Disney Plus, I thought was really well done, and the song itself is pretty good little Beatles track. So I'd recommend that. Finally, non-movie, non-TV, non-whatever. I have been playing Spider-Man 2, but we'll talk about that next time. I think I'm not that far enough into it. I want to really get into it. Last time we talked about things, the Braves had fucking lost in the playoffs. It was a real bad situation. And I thought, oh God, here we go. It's going to be an Astros-Phillies World Series, but I'd really, really love a Rangers-Diamondbacks one. Got my wish. Rangers Diamondbacks was the World Series. May not have been good for the ratings overall, but the Texas Rangers pulled it out, won the World Series for the first time in franchise history, which is pretty cool for them. It was nice to have a World Series where I'm just like, I truly do not give a fuck who wins, and I love this. So I greatly enjoyed that. And then last but not least, we went to Six Flags for the Fright Fest, which is like the Horror Nights type of thing.
Okay.
That equivalent, and they had a couple themed houses. They had a Conjuring one, and then they had a Saw one, and the other kind of their own sorts of things.
Ones, right?
Yeah, right. The generic ones. Production value is not quite up to snuff with Universal. I definitely miss our annual Horror Nights outings, but it was fun. It's the first time I've gone to like a haunted house thing, and probably since the last time I went to Horror Nights, which would have been probably when I lived in Florida, which has been several years now. So it was fun. Anna went too. She's not a horror person. She took some medication to kind of help her cope with the experience, and then she did pretty well. I'll give her credit. She did pretty well. She coped pretty well. I don't think they were that scary, to be fair, but she did pretty well, and so it was kind of fun. But yeah, I definitely miss Horror Nights. Horror Nights had a Last of Us house this year. I think that would have been so fucking cool to go through, but alas, was not meant to be. And that's it. That's it. That's it for me. I think right now. I think we've been here quite long, and I think that's a good place to end it, so that we don't drag this out any further. So I'll say, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. Yeah, I know I said it at the beginning, but it's been several hours, so I'm going to say it again. $2 a month gets you early access to all of our regular episodes, but right now what it really gets you is timed exclusive access to our bonus episodes. We have recorded an episode on The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. It's already up on Patreon. If you want to hear that, Patreon is the way to do it. We are going to be talking about the Two Towers. Probably the next time we literally record will probably be on the Two Towers. And it's probably not too long from when we're recording. Probably or potentially already out by the time this episode is up on the regular feed, depending on how things kind of play out. And then we'll be talking Return of the King. Before long, we're talking Return of the King. So definitely don't want to miss that. The next kind of series of episodes within our ongoing Epics series of bonus episodes. So yeah. Saying it again because we're doing it. Our website's watchreviewrepeat.com. We're on the socials at WRRpod on Twitter, facebook.com/watchreviewrepeat. Slashing and sloshing. I think I'm sloshing my words a little bit. I'm slashing them. And then we are on Instagram at watchreviewrepeat. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you got something to say, send it our way. watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Lord of the Rings thoughts, Ahsoka thoughts, things about things that are coming out in the near future. Anything. We would love to hear from you. And we'll talk about it on a future edition of the Listener's Corner on a future episode if you do so. So certainly, I'm keeping an eye out. I'll know if you send something. I will know, and we'll talk about it. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod. Yep, another MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. What's up next? What is up next? Obviously, again, The Two Towers, more eminently for us in terms of recording, but I think in terms of our next regular episode, The Marvels is dropping tonight, I guess, tomorrow-ish, depending, from when we're recording. It's not 4 hours long. I think we can get Andrew to a theater and get in and out, and bed at a decent hour. And we may bundle it with Loki Season 2, depending on how things work out. I don't know if you've been keeping up on Loki yourself or what. You didn't talk about it, obviously. But
I am up to date.
All right. Well, you got a finale to watch then sometime soon. So I've got 6 episodes to watch sometime soon. I'm doing the same shit I did with Ahsoka of fucking waiting it all out. But I'm gonna watch it pretty soon, I think. And so it may make sense to put those two together in the interest of just because we record a little bit more sporadically than we would have once upon a time, and a little bit of Marvel synergy, packaging two things together. That may be the way we do it. We'll see. Depends on whether I can watch all of Loki in time, but certainly that's the aspiration. And hopefully we'll have a guest on for that, but we'll see. We'll see how things all kind of work out. So, right. I think that's it. I think you need to say goodbye to the listeners. Tell them goodbye.
I will say goodbye to the listeners. Take care now. Yeah. Bye then.
Later's on the Menjay. I don't know why I said it like that.
It's pretty good.